Hello again, everybody. Welcome back to Trial TV Live. I am the Squeegee of Justice. Thank you for joining us for the afternoon session of West Virginia versus Natalie Cochran. Appreciate you guys joining us. We left off with the testimony of retired State Trooper Timothy Bledsoe. He is going to come. We're going to come back with cross. So, which should be starting anytime soon. And I just want to take this time to remind you that tonight at 8 o'clock Eastern, we're going to have Elisa Mathewson on. And if you guys remember, we rewatched the trial of her husband, where he basically essayed and assaulted her, DV'd her for 55 hours. Over the course of 3 days, I believe, 2 or 3 days. So she's going to be on tonight, and we're going to talk about how she feels about Sarah Boone, Ashley Benefield, and Amber Heard. And we will also talk about her manuscript, her book. I don't think it's not quite out yet, but I finished reading her book, and it's pretty powerful, you guys. So definitely join us for that. So, how are you guys doing? Everybody's ready? Baca, how long is this trial expected to go? I do not know. I know we're up to witness number 16. So I can't imagine there's many more. We've heard from the ME, the pathologist. We heard from friends. The only ones we have not heard from are anybody in the doctors, any of the ER doctors. So I really don't know. And we're back. Yes. Widespread panic. She's looking very guilty to me, but I'm open to hearing the defense's case. I think her attorney has a very tough row to hoe. I agree. Hellcat saying hello. Gina Farley saying hello. Who was first in chat? Baca 3. Let's see. I think it's interesting because OnlyFan was first in chat, but that's not coming up for us. Nope. Pammy, what kind of candy are you eating that creates burps? You have burps? What am I missing? Brat, as ready as I will be. Fala, in my bot voice. Ken Rosenberg, therapist, you know. Keep it clean. Thank you, Jenny, for the Patreon suggestion. Appreciate that. You were fourth. Awesome. Okay, yeah, so while we wait for Natalie Cochran to kick in, so tonight Elisa is going to be joining me on a shoot the shit with Squeegee, and it's going to be interesting. I'm going to have a really great conversation with her, and we're going to look at Sarah Boone, Amber Heard, and Ashley Benefield, and how their testimonies compare and contrast to her testimony. So, Kerviel, I feel her defense attorneys have done so horrible against the state witnesses, and I cannot imagine anyone be any better than with their own. Yeah. All right, guys, and our internet is still wonky, so if you get kicked out, just come back. It's just one of those things. Unfortunately, it happens with Comcast, so just bear with us. Yes, Ken Rosenberg. She is an incredible woman and an advocate. I just finished her story, her book. Unbelievable. Unbelievable what he put her through. So definitely join us for that. All right. Seems like court is still on a break. Let's just check in. They'll be back at 1:15, which it currently is 1:15. So we're waiting for them to come back in. And while we wait, Let's see. Hey, Meg. Hello. Just watched this morning on Catch Up. Very good. Very good. Mandy says, on February 6, 2019, Natalie obtained promethazine tablets that Michael was severely allergic to and insulin from a neighbor. Guilty as charged. Yes, Mandy, we know where you stand for sure. Mandy also says, if y'all listen to Trooper Bledsoe's direct, you will see there is zero doubt of her guilt. Fala says, Amber Heard, faker, very little truth. Sarah Boone, victim and abuser. Ashley Benefield, want to say victim to a point, but she's an enigma. Well, we're going to find out. We're going to find out from somebody that the jury actually said you were essayed and DV'd. All those other you just mentioned there, Fala, jury didn't find them that. So that's why I'm interested to hear Elisa's take on them. Widespread panic. I'm still trying to get over why anyone would ever inject himself in his back. I agree. I hear you. Debbie Blair, welcome back. Pammy, good to see you. Brenda Meyer, hello, hello. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining. Debbie Blair says, Pammy, thank you. Ken Rosenberg, and to face your abuser like that in court, and let's be real, that wasn't a cross-exam of Miss Mathewson. That was just another chance to abuse her. 100%. 100% agree. 100% agree, especially after reading her story. I hope it gets out soon. We're going to do everything we can to help her get her story out there because it needs to be heard by everybody. Mandy Strong, Michael went to Starbucks the morning of. I guess on the morning? Yeah, he definitely went to Starbucks on the morning of. And by one of her accounts, she gave 3 different stories to Trooper Bledsoe. The first was that they were in the house together. The second, Mike was doing the best that he had been doing. Third was they had gone separate ways and returned home. So which is it? It's kind of weird, right? She said she gave 3 different stories. Curviel says, I think Ashley is the least guilty of those 3. Is the least guilty. Ashley is the least guilty. Okay. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I would agree with you. I would agree with you on that. I think they were all toxic relationships, for sure. I think I would agree with you on that. Well, join us tonight, Curviel. I hope that we see you tonight. It's going to be a good conversation. I guarantee that. Widespread panic. I have been reading, though, that bodybuilders actually do use insulin to build muscle. I imagine that will come up in the defense case. I would absolutely think so. I wonder how that works. Rachel B. says, I want to see the medical records from Natalie going to the doctor to get that promethazine. I agree. Fala says, I think A.B. jury had issues with why she invited him over or allowed him to come over. Yep. Well, the clip that we played is when she's on the stand under cross and she let him back into the complex. She told her mom and her child to leave. So it's interesting. Rachel B., I want to know what she told the doctor to get that. Yeah, me too. It's okay, Nanar. We're waiting. Court is a little bit late. Basu Muma. I hope I got your name right. It's a great name, boss. Basu Muma. I inject insulin 4 times a day, but never in my back. Yeah. Mandy Strong. Michael went to Starbucks. Natalie went to Access Health and obtained pills Michael was severely allergic to. And she got an injection. She got an injection herself. Bledsoe reviewed all the medical records. He said so as part of the investigation. That is true. Bratt says, not sure where they go, though. The defendant documented her claims of normal blood sugar until he got to the hospital, so she can't claim he caused this by injecting himself. Thank you, Curviel. It is going to be a good show tonight. Therapist, Ashley lived behind the gate and claimed to feel threatened, but let him in. That's what did her in. That's true. Rachel says, Mandy, did he say what she told the doctor in order to get the drug? No. OnlyFans said she had promethazine and benzoform. That will knock out a cow and not the therapist kind. That's funny. Out of context, that sounds really rude, says Rachel B. And therapist you know agrees with Rachel B. What is Emerson? What is Curviel? What is Emerson's? Did you see the pictures? What is that referring to? Andrew Strong says, no, not revealed yet, but I'm only halfway through rewatching Trooper Bledsoe's testimony. My notes show that he did not say why. I didn't get that. If you see it, Mandy, let us know, but I did not see that. Still waiting for live court to kick in. Nothing yet. And we play the waiting game. Mandy says, Natalie texted a friend saying Michael had to take 2 of her blood pressure pills. Yep. Mandy's giving us a play-by-play. Appreciate it, Mandy. Those are the text messages that they showed. Let's see. Trooper Bledsoe's testimony is filled with so many bombshells, my hand almost fell off taking detailed notes. Yeah, it was good. He actually did. He did unveil a lot. Fala says, so do we know if she actually had cancer or not? I'm confused. Emerson is Benefit's daughter. Oh, Benefield. Benefield? Benefield? I'm guessing that's Benefield. Widespread panic. No evidence of cancer diagnosis that investigators could find. OnlyFans says, I really want to know about her federal case now. Yeah. Defense tripping over objections they're hauling in. Yes. Curviel, Benefield. Okay. Emerson is their daughter. Okay. Justice says insulin is also a commonly used PED. Is that performance enhancing by bodybuilders for its purported anabolic properties such as stimulation of glycogen formation. NR says blood pressure pills don't act immediately, so that's bizarre. Oh, Tennis Girl. Nice of you to join us, listening while waiting to get car inspected. Cool. Thank you. Appreciate it. Crystal Limited Edition. I didn't see that all that stuff was put in evidence. So Mandy says 4-8. Natalie told Trooper she found the bottle of clomidine on the counter, and then May 7th and 8th told that she found it hidden in the cabinet. Yeah, she was interviewed three times. She kind of changed her testimony 3 times. 3 different times she changed her testimony. Dreama Landry, way too many lies by her. I agree. Jury's not allowed to take notes. Right, Krista? I hope the jury gets it all. They are not allowed to take notes. Right? I'm pretty sure they are not allowed to take notes. Tennis Girl 101. Hi, Shuga. Mandy Strong. Michael wasn't given blood pressure pills. Natalie was lying to her friend through text. The text came in. Tennis Girl saying hello back to people. Ken Rosenberg asked, what do y'all think of the prosecutors? The female's a little scattered. I don't have her name. Tom Truman is the prosecutor. I don't have his co-counsel. She seems a little scattered. She's a couple times they're back. Oh, okay. They're back. Let me get back to... Okay, see you guys on the other side.
Members of the jury, as you've seen over the course of this trial, we've had some technical difficulties. Happily, we don't have any now. We're ready to go forward. But I just wanted to explain to you further that in terms of modern technology, I'm a dinosaur. I know very little about it, and I rely upon others to make my way for me. Please do not hold it against the attorneys. Both sides have been working as hard as they can to get everything straightened out. We just have outdated equipment in this courtroom. Believe it or not, the equipment was installed in 2010 and 2011, which in modern day's time makes it obsolete. And not only that, it's worn out because we use it quite a bit. If you can hold it against me, and I've got broad shoulders and I don't really care, but please don't hold it against either of the attorney sides because they're truly working as hard as they can to present this case to you in the most efficient and streamlined manner. With that, we will continue, and I believe we are down to the cross-examination of Lieutenant Bledsoe, Mr. Victor.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Bledsoe, first of all, I'm going to ask you whether you yourself lost any money or assets by the Ponzi scheme of Mr. and Mrs. Cochran.
No, I did not.
Okay. So you have no personal interest, financial interest in this case whatsoever?
No, I do not.
Okay. Now, I will start with a couple of questions that the prosecution asked you. And if I may I approach the witness?
Yes, you may.
You were asked, I'm going to hand the witness what's been marked the state's exhibit number 1. And you recognize that document? That exhibit, I should say.
Yes, I do.
Now, in response to the state's question about who appears on that document, you responded that only the defendant, Natalie Cochran, appears on that document, right?
As the defendant in the case, yes.
And that document is actually the judgment in federal criminal trial against Natalie Cochran.
Yes, that's what it says.
And you made some comments about Michael Cochran not being involved in that federal trial, right?
Yes.
In the context of this document.
Correct.
Well, that document was entered in 2021, right?
Yes.
Is it true that Natalie Cochran was indicted on September 25th, 2021? No, I'm sorry, 2019.
That sounds accurate,
That
yes.
sounds right.
Let me interrupt and ask Mr. Selden if we need to call Dr. Banerjee. She's not on the line now. We disconnected her during lunch.
No, Your Honor. I sent her a text message, and she's not intending to listen to testimony.
All right. And I apologize, Mr. Victor. Please continue.
So, it shouldn't surprise you, Mr. Bledsoe, that Mr. Cochran's name is nowhere there. He's been dead for half a year. Right?
Yes, that's correct.
So, if you say that his name didn't appear in this context of this federal indictment and judgment against Natalie Cochran, the federal government had absolutely no reason to indict a dead person, right?
That's correct.
And no reason to prosecute a dead person, right?
Yes.
But if you look at the page I don't know, there's, if I may indicate to you, there is a forfeiture proceeding there, isn't there?
I'll have to see it.
Yeah.
To make sure.
Let me show you. Oh, page. Page 14 of State's Exhibit 1. There is a page dealing with the forfeiture of the assets of the defendant, right?
It appears that way, yes.
But those assets are the same assets that Mr. and Mrs. and Mr. Cochran had together, right?
It appears so, yes.
Okay, if I may retrieve the exhibit. Yes, sir. And would it be fair to say, Mr. Bledsoe, that the federal government, from the inception of this case, oh, by the way, let me ask this, try it. I take it from your testimony on direct that you were the officer in charge of the murder investigation, right?
No, I don't think that's accurate.
Who was above you? Who ran this investigation?
It was a joint investigation.
Well, you weren't some kind of underling, were you? You were on top of it.
Yes, Mr. Heinzman and myself, along with the United States Secret Service.
Secret Service. Okay. Well, are we to assume that you know, or you should know, as one of the leading officers of this case, all the aspect of this murder investigation? At least you should.
Yeah, I think that's a accurate statement. I feel like I know the information well.
Okay. All right. So, in fact, the federal government had a lot of interest in this case from the standpoint of the monetary losses that the investors sustained in the Ponzi scheme case, right?
Yes.
And, in fact, when this case started, you applied for a search warrant of the defendant's property, right?
No, that's, excuse me, that's not correct.
Well, did you ever apply for any type of search of any property that belonged to the businesses of Mr. and Mrs. Cochran?
Yes.
What was that application for?
For a federal search warrant.
For a federal search warrant. And in that federal search warrant, isn't it true that, because we're now back to that business of Michael knowing or not knowing what was going on, isn't it true that you listed Mr. Cochran, first of all, as a partner in both corporations, or both businesses?
Yes.
You listed them, okay? And, in fact, you stated in the application for that search warrant that they were partners, owners, and, well, in fact, both of them, and operated Technology Management Solution and Tactical Solution Group. Did you say that?
Are you reading that directly from the search warrant?
From your application.
Yes, if it's in my application, then yes.
And then Michael Cochran was involved in work involving computers, network, and information technology for that company, right?
Again, if that's coming from the application, then yes, I would agree with that.
All right. So he knew, according to you, the daily operations of that business, right? Or both businesses, for that matter.
I didn't quite understand your question.
Well, if he participated in the operation of the business and knew everything about the computers and worked on the computers, well, let's strike that. A lot of that business was done online, wasn't it? Of the groups,
Which
the companies.
Which business? There were two businesses.
Well, two businesses. Both of them did a lot of business online, right?
I don't know that I would characterize it as a lot, but they clearly did business electronically, is how I would describe it.
And you testified that Michael was actually working as a computer specialist, right?
Yes.
So, isn't it true that he did a lot of business online for both of these companies?
I don't know the answer to that one.
You don't know how to answer that one. Okay? Then, you know that Michael and Natalie were signatories to their bank statements, right?
Yes.
And both of them had the accounts in First Community Bank, right?
I'm not sure exactly which accounts you're referring to, but
Let's say First Community Bank business account number, 4 last digit 4272, opened on July 1st, 2013. Authorized signers being Michael B. Cochran and Natalie Cochran, whose address is blah blah blah. Well, they were both on the account of the business, right?
if you're referring to something from 2013, from memory, I can't recall seeing that.
That's this. Well, let me show you this document. Is this your application for a search warrant, sir? The last page, it has place for you to sign. This is the document we received from.
Yes, it is.
All right. So look at that page. Look at these accounts. Who are the owners of these accounts?
You want a specific account?
Yeah, let's go down the list. Let's see what we can find out.
You want me to read them off?
Well, let's see the first bank.
First Community Bank. Signers being Michael B. Cochran and Natalie P. Cochran.
Okay. And what's the account number on it? Last four digits.
0715.
Okay. The second account.
4274.
What bank is that?
First Community Bank.
Okay. Is there any other bank?
Not until the next paragraph, no, sir.
Well, let's go to the next paragraph then. What's that bank?
First Community Bank.
Okay. So that's another account where they are both owners of the account?
Yes.
All right. What's the next one?
City National Bank.
And these are all, by the way, the accounts for the business, right? Or the businesses. These are not some separate personal accounts, are they?
Yes, some of them designate that they are connected to a business, and then some just appear to be personal.
Okay. May I? First Community Bank, that was a personal account. But account number 4274 is Technology Management Solution. That's the account for the business, isn't it?
I don't know exactly what that was for, but it's what it, on that document, that business name does appear in that paragraph, yes.
This is a business account for the TMS, right? Yes or no?
I would assume so, yes.
Okay. And then we have City National Bank, business account, 9705, Technology Management Solution, opened in February of 2018. Authorized signers being Natalie Cochran and Michael Cochran. That sounds like a business account, right?
Yes, yes it does.
City National Bank, account number 3517, Tactical Solution Group LLC. Open September 27th. Authorized signers being Natalie Cochran and Michael Cochran, whose address is, etc., etc. That appears to be a bank account, right?
Correct.
Okay. Branch Banking and Trust, BB&T. Finally, I know what that stands for. BB&T, 1402 account number for Tactical Solution Group, opened September 26, 2018. Authorized signers being Natalie Cochran and Michael Cochran.
Correct.
That's a business account.
Yes.
Both of them, right?
Yes.
Another BB&T 1410. Technology Management Solution, DBA TMS, opened September 26, 2018. Authorized signers being Natalie Cochran and Michael Cochran. That appears to be a business account, right?
Yes.
Then Morgan Chase Bank, 8236 account number for Tactical Solution Group, LLC, DBA, doing business as TSG, open December 19, 2018. Authorized signers, again, Natalie Cochran and Michael Cochran. That seems to be another banking account. I mean, a business account.
Yes.
For both of them.
Correct.
All right. And Michael Cochran actually had access to all of these accounts, right?
Based on that information, I would think so, yes.
Well, you were here all throughout the testimony. You saw the exhibits. There, Michael Cochran signed all these checks, right?
Yes.
For all of the employees and all of the people who rendered services on his behalf, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Then in your petition for search warrant, you stated that during the Cochran's outwardly lavish lifestyle, Cochran's plural, houses, vehicles, philanthropic activities increased and became noticeable by friends, family, and the local community. You state the Cochrans were active in the community sports, acting as coaches, teams, volunteers, board members, and the Cochrans would supply uniforms, equipment, supplies for the Little League teams, etc., etc. Both of them, right?
And that's coming directly from the application.
There you go.
Then yes, that's correct.
Well, so they had a lavish lifestyle. We'll come back to that. January 2018, the Cochrans purchased a commercial building together, right? For $66,000.
Yes.
Where did that money come from?
That money came from investments.
Investments, right? And then they purchased another, they purchased three buildings total, right? For which the money came from, two buildings, for which the money came from the investments, right?
I don't recall exactly how many, sir.
Okay. And then investors gave him between December 7, 2017 and March 2018 $230,000. Is that true?
Yes.
And you claim through your testimony that they used the money for the lifestyle. Both of them.
That's
right?
what the money at that time was being used for.
That's right. Now, you also state that the Cochrans claimed to have sold such high volume of firearms to the government that their firearm supplies and manufacturers rewarded them with the discounts up to 75% for Glock, Kimber, Ruger, Smith & Wesson. And the Cochrans never sold a gun to anybody or a firearm, right?
No, I don't believe that's correct.
Well, they sold some, but
Yes.
certainly not the volume that they claimed, right?
No, we knew that they didn't sell that volume.
Okay. And would you agree with me, sir, that Natalie Cochran knew absolutely nothing about firearms or weapons in your thorough investigation of this case?
Objection, Your Honor. That calls for speculation. You can't speak to what the defendant did or did not know.
Oh, this is the whole case is about what the defendant knew.
I'll allow it. I'll overrule the objection. Go ahead.
Could you repeat that, sir?
Well, Natalie Cochran did not ever talk to you, or you have no evidence that she knew anything about armor, weapons, guns, firearms, military outfits. She didn't know anything about it.
That's not correct.
No, she knew intimately what the firearms were like, what she was dealing with, what she was selling. She knew that. Is that your testimony here today?
I wouldn't characterize it as how intimately or whatever words you used, but no, that's not accurate. She did have some knowledge of firearms and trying to negotiate firearms sales with the local police department.
Okay. But Michael was the man. He knew about the firearms. He knew about the tactical gear, right?
I don't know that. I never spoke to him about that.
Well, he was enamored with firearms, with weapons. True?
I don't know, sir.
You don't know that. Well, in the thorough investigation of this case, did you ever learn that Michael was indeed involved in the firearm business?
The information that I saw was that the defendant was trying to negotiate a sale of firearms with the Raleigh County Sheriff's Department, and there was information also that she was trying to negotiate a deal for a firearms sale with the West Virginia State Police, which was completely fictitious.
And Michael knew nothing about it. He who handles firearms, who made his, well, did you know that he was proud and advised everybody to watch the movie called Warlords about the firearms deals. That was one of his favorite movies. Did you know that?
Yes, I believe the name of the movie is actually War Dogs.
War Dogs.
That was brought to
my
my attention during the investigation.
Not on my cinematographic gems, but that was something that Michael really loved because he was enamored with firearms, and that's what he tried to establish his business in, right?
I can't answer that.
Can't answer that. Now, licenses, were they applied to both of the defendants? Licenses for the business licenses, were they in the name of Michael Cochran? Well, you investigated this case.
I'm trying to figure out which business you're referring
Well,
to.
any business licenses, were they ever signed or issued to Mr. Cochran?
I can't recall that from memory. If you have something you're referring to that I could view.
No, I'm just asking you whether you recall.
No, I can't recall that from memory.
Now, is it true that at some point Mr. Cochran commingled or participated in commingling the personal accounts and the business accounts?
I can't say that he did or he didn't.
Well, in paragraph 71 for your application for the warrant, the Cochrans commingled their day-to-day and personal expenditures in all of their business accounts.
Then
You
yes.
said that.
Okay, yes.
So they commingled the accounts, so they wouldn't even know what is theirs, what is the business's. What is the investor's money, what is theirs, right?
I don't know if that's a fair assessment of that information.
Well, but if they commingle their funds, well, then one day when Mr. Cochran wants to pay for his, shall we say, lunch, and wants to pay by check, which is kind of outmoded today, but wants to pay by check, he doesn't know whether he's paying actually with the money from the investors or whether he's paying with his own money. Or does he know?
No, I wouldn't know how he would know which money it is.
Well, let's say that's the money that he received, let's say, from his parents for $44,000. And he puts it in his personal account or the commingled account. Wouldn't he know that that money is from the investors, i.e. his parents, and he cannot touch it because it should be in a separate account?
No, that money was given to the company for investments into government contracts through the Tactical Solutions Group business or the Technology Management Solutions business.
So how many times did Mr. Cochran actually receive the money from the investors himself? Here comes Johnny investor and says, Michael, here's a check I'm going to give you for the investment. How many times did something like that happen?
Again, I can't recall that from memory, sir.
Well, you don't know. All right, you cannot recall. And would it, I'm looking at that form that you signed to, and the expenditure of that TMS or whatever the two businesses is over $1,100,000 plus, $1,123,517.07 for all kinds of things. For the Toyota, that was their car. For getting some cash. Polaris. Horse trailer. Earrings. Easy loader. Heating and cooling. These are the expenses that the TMS incurred over the years, and those were the expenses that you yourself claim came out of the illegal proceeds, right?
It came out of the business accounts.
Business accounts that they both controlled, right?
Yes.
Okay. And in fact, when the federal government finally looked at the harvest of your hard work. The federal government claimed that both of the defendants enjoyed the proceeds of the account, right? Or accounts. True?
Yes.
Yes. And then just happened that while the federal government was ready to indict them both, in September of 2019, Mr. Cochran unexpectedly died, right?
That's not correct.
No? All right. You've been involved in federal investigation of the cases, sir, haven't you?
Of other cases?
Yeah.
Yes.
You're telling this jury that if there is ever a couple, husband and wife, who are cheating on taxes, let's say, or who are involved in some, money laundering or some other financial scheme, you are telling us that from your experience that the federal government would only investigate one and not the other? Is that your understanding of the federal investigation, sir?
It would depend upon the evidence that was set forth in each investigation. I've seen it go both directions.
You have seen the cases where the couples, married couples, are investigated individually? You really have?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
I've conducted those myself.
And in fact, the federal government, you have no evidence to suggest, sir, that the federal government would not have indicted Mr. Cochran had he not been dead by September 25th of 2019.
No, I don't believe that he would have.
He would not have been indicted. Even though the federal government was looking at all of his property that he enjoyed and had at his disposal and purchased with the proceeds of illegal transactions. You do not believe that he would have been charged with these offenses?
No, but I don't believe that there was evidence to support that.
No, just to the contrary. Would you agree with me that, as we have already heard in this court, this couple lived a lifestyle of the rich and famous? They had purchases amounting to literally a couple of $1 million, right?
I would say that's fairly accurate, yes.
And that couple had purchases that were not some piddly little items. When Mr. Cochran was buying Natalie a ring, he didn't buy a $500 ring. He bought a $14,000 ring, right?
I actually don't know who purchased the ring or a
Okay.
ring.
When he bought the real property, it wasn't some ramshackle affair somewhere in some holler somewhere. It was a big-time property.
Actually, he wasn't able to complete transactions on property that he was trying to purchase because he couldn't complete the sale because the money was not available to do that, and he believed that it was.
I see. But he managed somehow to get himself a couple of motorcycles, well, several motorcycles, a couple of cars, including the antiques. He was somehow able to remodel his, $300,000 house, right? He was able to do all of this financially from his income that we still cannot determine.
He believed his income was coming from the proceeds of the legitimate business that he believed he operated doing government contracts and receiving payment back from the government based on those contracts, which was not true.
And of course, you're in his head and you know what he was thinking. That's your testimony?
No, sir, I'm not saying that.
Now, the federal government didn't take kindly to any of this, and the federal government asked for the forfeiture of all of that property, didn't it?
Yes.
And for that matter, the federal government asked for the forfeiture of assets. Well, let's start with the let's start with $523,343, and no, I'm sorry, it's the assets 523, 343, 361. What is it? $523 million?
That doesn't sound accurate. I'm
Well-
not sure what you're referring to.
Well, I'll show you the forfeiture
Yes.
that the federal government filed against the Cochrans. Can I approach?
Yes, you may.
I always suck at math. But would you please read this? The Cochrans listed their assets as how much?
Yes. I'm sorry. Listed as $522,091,571, and that was not true.
I didn't ask you whether it was true. It's in the federal forfeiture proceedings.
Yes.
And it was signed by the assistant U.S. attorney. You think she made it up?
No.
Somehow?
No.
Well, so they listed assets to the tune of $500 billion with a B, like boy, $1 billion.
Yes.
Let's say, Mr. Bledsoe, that I'm coming home and my wife tells me our assets are $500 million today. Shouldn't I be surprised?
Yes, I would be surprised and
So
question it.
Mr. Cochran looks at these assets that are listed. We have $500 million in assets. What the heck are we doing in West Virginia? We should be somewhere, I don't know, in Monte Carlo, some other place. $500 million, sir. And he didn't know about all these assets?
I don't know if he listed that or not. This document was filed in July of 2019 after Mr. Cochran's death.
Well, these assets, these $500 million, didn't. You know the saying, Rome wasn't built in one day. That $523 million did not grow in the bank or wherever it was in one day, right?
No, that information came from documentation that the defendant had tried to use as part of the federal indictment in which he was charged.
Well, as we agreed before, my gal was a pretty bad girl, right? My client here, she was a fraud, right?
I'm not here to judge anyone, sir.
Okay. Now, I just want to ask you a couple of questions in regard to your testimony here today. You said that you were surprised. You found it odd when my client told you that her husband used to inject himself with insulin, right?
Yes,
Especially that it was in the back, right?
that's correct.
And you found the word back somewhat objectionable, right? You found it odd.
Yes, it didn't seem like something that I expected to hear.
Or maybe she was just trying to be polite. Maybe she didn't want to use the word hip or leg, or maybe a good old word butt, or maybe, for that matter, the word that starts with an A and has 3 letters in it. Maybe she was just trying to be polite. And she said, well, it was in the back.
That's what she said, yes.
Yeah. That did not really seem odd to you, did it? It didn't seem odd that it seemed odd that he would inject himself with insulin?
It seemed odd to me, yes, because he was not a diabetic that I was aware of, and I had never heard of anyone injecting themselves with insulin for workout or bodybuilding purposes. No, sir, I'd never heard.
Never. Okay. All right. Fair enough. You testified on direct here that you found it suspicious that my client and Michael did not go to the meeting with that fine banker that just testified here a couple of days ago. You found it odd.
I'm not sure I understand your question.
Well, they were supposed to go and meet the banker, right?
That's my understanding, yes.
But they didn't because Natalie was sick.
That's correct.
That's correct. And would it surprise you if you knew that the account wasn't even open? There was nothing to discuss about the account.
No, that wouldn't surprise me one bit.
And for that matter, do you have any idea that Natalie went to the doctor not on the day when Mr. Cochran collapsed in his home, but the day before? Did you know that?
Yes, she went on the 5th and the 6th.
So she went there on the 5th and on the 6th. And she complained about all kinds of problems, bad enough for the doctor to give her a shot and give her medication. Right?
I think that's accurate, yes.
Okay. So all of these shenanigans which you accuse her of, including not being able to go to meet the banker in Virginia and all of that, can be simply explained by the fact that she was ill or sick, and the doctor who gave her the medication pretty much told her to stay in bed. And she was really genuinely ill or genuinely sick. Wouldn't that be a fair explanation, sir?
I don't know what the physician may have told her. But I know that Mr. Cochran was trying to continue that trip without her, along with Mr. Davis if necessary.
And for that matter, did you know that Mr. Cochran himself didn't want to go without Natalie?
I believe he indicated that he would prefer that she go.
He indicated that he wanted to go with Natalie, and that's why he didn't go. Not because he had some suspicion that she was going to execute him that day. Right?
No, he wanted to go to the Bank of America to try to find out why he was not receiving the funds that he thought he had been told that $1.4 billion was going to be deposited into that account after February the 1st.
Could it be that maybe because he bought himself a 1964 Cobra, there was no money in that account?
The Cobra, I believe, was purchased before there was any dealing with Bank of America.
Maybe because he bought himself a couple of nice motorcycles. That's why there was no money in that account.
I don't know why there's no money in that account. Well, actually, I do know why there was no money in that account, because the basis for any funding coming to that account, as you heard from Mr. Nexon as well, was that it was supposed to be coming from payments for government contracts and returns on investments. The contracts were never done, and there was no money ever coming.
Mr. Bledsoe, did you listen to that banker? There was no account, was there? There was no account, was there?
I don't
They
know if
haven't
I don't know if
established
the
any
count was, that was the process. He explained, the way I understood his explanation is they were in the process of trying to open an account, and he had vetted the information that he was provided
Mr.
by the
Bledsoe,
defendant.
as we stand here today, as I stand here today, as you sit there, as you remember the testimony of that banker, there was no account. You can be in the process of doing something, but that doesn't make it necessarily so, sir. They had no account. True?
No, I don't think that's true.
Okay. You're telling us that they had the bank in Virginia already established, and they were ready to pounce on the banker in Virginia to figure out why there was no money there. Is that what it was? Is that your testimony?
That Michael Cochran was wanting to travel to that bank and meet with Mr. Nixon to try to find out why there was no money in that account.
As the lead investigator in this case, show the jury any document that would establish that the account in the Virginia, Lynchburg, Virginia bank was already in existence. Can you do that? Yes or no?
As I'm sitting here right now, I can't.
No. No, you cannot do it because they needed what is known as wet signatures, right? The signatures in writing.
Yes, I remember that.
Many banks require that a person appear in person to open an account.
Yes, Michael Cochran had told the defendant that since she was sick, he would travel on and get that signature information and bring it back so she could sign hers as well. He was determined to get this done.
He was determined, and yet he didn't go. Right? Okay. Now, that little bottle of the substance that you testified to was not insulin, that you received from Mr. and Mrs. Bolt. What was it?
I can't pronounce the name that the chemist from the FBI lab identified it as.
Anaclophamine, if I pronounce it, that probably mispronounced it with my inflection anyway. So, anaclophamine.
That was how it was labeled, but you asked me about the substance in the bottle, I believe, and
Okay.
that was identified to be something different than the label.
Well, that was the substance to fight the waning testosterone, right?
I don't know what that's for.
Well, you investigated this case. You're claiming that my client killed her husband with a substance, and you would not be curious to know the effects of the medication that you just found?
Yes, that's exactly why we submitted it for testing.
Okay, well, so now you know that this substance is designed to, help the macho man, be a macho man. The testosterone medication, right?
I can't say that I know that personally. I can say that what I heard testified to here by the chemist, that would be the basis of my knowledge of that.
And
substance.
certainly that could not be the medication that killed this guy, because that medication makes a person combative, right?
That's right, Your Honor. He's asking him to testify as to medical knowledge that he has clearly stated he does not have.
You don't know what that medication is.
Sustained.
Right, fine.
I do have limited
Hold on, no
knowledge.
questions pending. You testified on direct that you believe that Natalie's statement concerning her cancer is false.
In the context of the time that it was being reported by her, I believe my testimony was that I hadn't obtained any evidence to support that.
Well, did you get any evidence from Duke University?
I believe we subpoenaed, off the top of my head, I can't remember without reviewing it, but I believe we did subpoena some documents from Duke.
And did she have anything that resembled cancer?
I don't recall
You
that.
don't recall. Now, did you know that she first went to the Cleveland Clinic?
I remember references to the Cleveland Clinic in the text messages,
Right.
but I don't know if she ever actually went there. I don't think we subpoenaed any documentation from Cleveland Clinic.
And do you know whether she was accepted or rejected there?
No, I do not know that.
And if she was rejected for such insidious purpose as lack of insurance, that still would not change the fact that she may have had cancer. Right?
I can't answer that.
And if she then went to Duke, you don't know whether she had cancer or not. You're just speculating here.
No, I'm basing my answer off of documents that I
By the way,
reviewed
how did you get into her medical records, sir?
with a subpoena.
With a subpoena? So which doctors did you subpoena for her medical records?
There were quite a few. I would have to see a list of those to actually recite them back, but there were several.
And you're testifying here today that she was, and at least from your surreptitious review of her medical records, that she is a model of health.
No, sir, I'm not saying that.
Well, what's wrong with her? What was wrong with her at that time?
The one thing that I do recall that I remember from that is that she was having treatment for some type of heart issue and a heart ablation.
Did you obtain the records from Mount General Oncology?
Again, possible, but I don't can't remember that
Well,
without
I mean,
having a list of them.
I think we all know what oncology means, right?
Did you say oncology?
Oncology, yeah.
Yes, I'm very familiar with that word.
Yeah. That's one of the worst words that you ever want to hear in your life, right?
Yes, it is.
That's a place that deals with cancer, with an illness for which there is no universal care, sir. Right? And if that woman went to Mount Oncology, she wasn't there to ask for candy. She went there to ask for medical advice concerning a condition which may end up her life. True?
I don't know. I can't speak to those
And you
records or a visit if I can't.
And you
see
don't
it.
know. Yet, stubbornly, you refuse to acknowledge that this woman may have had a condition of which you have no clue, no idea. Right?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that based on the information that I had and was provided, I didn't see anything that indicated that.
Do you ever submit it to any doctors for any review of Ms. Cochran's medical conditions? Or you just evaluated it yourself?
I don't believe I think the only records that we submitted to any doctors were for Mr. Cochran.
Okay. All right. I want to ask you a little bit about, you said several times that based on my investigation, based on my investigation. Remember saying that several times?
I do.
You do. Well, who lived in Cochran's household in the year of, let's say, 2018?
I can't say for certain who actually lived in the household. I was never in their household
All right,
in
let me make it
2008.
simple. Do they have any children?
Yes,
Did you interview any of these children?
I did.
However many children they had?
I did not.
You did not. Wouldn't that be an invaluable source of information concerning their lifestyles, drug consumption at home, health of their parents? Would have been, and these children are now, one of them is still 17, but one is 20. So a couple of years ago, they were still 15, 13, 14. You could have asked them all kinds of questions, but you didn't interview them, did you?
No, we did not.
No. Did you know, and I'm going to refer to these texts. Oh, by the way, let me ask you this. Do you have any idea whether Michael Cochran was a dominant figure in the marriage? Or was it Natalie Cochran who was dominant in that marriage?
I can offer no observation on that either way.
If I told you that in August of 2018, the phone that Natalie Cochran had was actually taken from her by her husband, would you believe that?
I don't know whether to believe it or not. I don't know the source of that information.
Would that, if I told you that Mr. Cochran controlled Miss Cochran's use of the computer, would you have any evidence to contradict that?
That he controlled her use?
Controlled the use of the computers at home.
No.
Would you have any evidence to contradict that Mr. Cochran actually had the phone that belonged to Mrs. Cochran for about 2 months before he even let her use it again?
I have no information about that.
And would you have any information to contradict the proposition that these messages that you played were actually sent by Mr. Cochran rather than Mrs. Cochran?
No, I don't believe that.
You don't believe that? All right. In your thorough investigation of this case, and since you have such knack for getting medical records, did you obtain the medical records of Mr. Cochran's?
Yes, we did obtain several medical records for Mr. Cochran.
What happened to him in 2017?
I don't know what you're referring to.
Well, did he have a back surgery in 2017? Do you recall that from looking at this?
Actually, I believe I recall that from hearing it here during this proceeding.
Well, you have any reason to doubt that?
Doubt that he had a back surgery?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. And I think we've established it already that on October 31st, Mr. Cochran went to the hospital with some mysterious conditions that couldn't be accounted for.
Yes.
And those conditions may have involved convulsions, maybe epilepsy, right? Whatever it was serious.
I recall that there were numerous suspicious, or I guess symptoms would be a better word, that were part of that. But my recollection of that is that there was no clear diagnosis.
That was my question. Did you hear about October 31st? He went to the hospital.
Correct.
Yes or no?
Yes.
And his conditions, and by the way, you knew from your thorough investigation of this case that Michael Cochran hated hospitals with an unbridled passion.
I wouldn't characterize that.
He hated hospitals, all right.
I can't say that I know that.
Did he want to stay in a hospital from all your investigation?
No.
No. But soon enough, on November 2nd, he was again in the hospital, only this time for 5 days, right?
Yes, that's correct.
And for 5 days, which hospital was it, by the way?
I don't know. I can't remember if it was Memorial or General, but it was Charleston Area Medical Center.
Not a bad hospital, is it?
It's a fine, very fine hospital.
And these fine doctors there could not really determine what it was. They claimed there was a mold exposure and all of that, but he had the conditions that didn't have anything to do with mold, right?
Yes.
And those conditions, and we've been through it already on one examination of one officer. Convulsive epilepticus, so he may have had epilepsy, right?
I think there was a whole list of things that might have
Yes, encephalopathy, which is what?
been. I don't know.
Okay. Respiratory failure, seizure, altered mental state, enlarged heart. Those are serious conditions, right?
Yes.
And he was vomiting, he had fever, rash, dizziness, urinary retention. He couldn't go to the bathroom. A sepsis could have set in. That's serious, isn't it?
Yes.
Chronic sinusitis, he couldn't breathe on top of that. Serious stuff. So he stayed in the hospital, and then when he came out of the hospital, isn't it true that he told everybody he was not going back? True or not?
I don't know. I have been told that, yes.
Yeah. And you knew that he was using supplements, right?
I don't know that. I was told that by the defendant.
Okay. Well, you did. You looked at his computers and all of that, right? Or their computers, his computers, when you did the search.
Yes, we did seize computers and cell phones.
Well, Mr. Cochran started in 2017, from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, corresponding with the Advocare International. What was that company?
I'm not familiar with that company.
Well, maybe not too many people are familiar with it, detective, because that was one of the companies that may have provided him with the substances that the American government wouldn't want to know about. Did you check it out?
No, I did not.
Okay. How about, well, we know Amazon.com, KYDC LLC. He started that in 2015. What did he purchase from them?
What year was that?
2015. I think he started in 2015.
We wouldn't have looked at was been outside of scope, I think, of anything we were looking at.
Well, but yet you're charging this woman with murder by poison, and you don't want to know what kind of substances this man had after you found two suspicious substances in their home?
Well, I knew the one suspicious substance, the enclomiphene citrate, the bottle labeled enclomiphene citrate. The defendant, the first time I interviewed her, told me that Michael Cochran overdosed on that morning on the 6th, and that's what led to his condition and ultimate death.
Well, obviously, you have, well, we'll come to that in a second. You have no evidence, sir, that she injected him with anything. You don't have any of that evidence, do you? You don't have any punctures, you don't have any syringes, you don't have any of it, do you?
Have seen any punctures in
on his body?
No.
You don't have any syringes?
No.
No. And you also know, in your thorough investigation of this case, that Humalog, and you heard this testimony as you were sitting here today, acts in a delayed fashion, 15 to 30 minutes after somebody's injected, that insulin takes effect. Yes or no? You heard that. Yes or no?
I'm trying to remember what was testified to, and I don't want to sit here and try to repeat testimony, but I want to answer your question. That sounds consistent with what was testified to here earlier.
And so I kind of want to know, detective, if the events of February the 6th somehow comport with what you believe them to be. On the 6th of February, I submit to you that my client is alone in a house with Michael Cochran, right? In the morning.
At some time that morning, yes,
Sometime
they both returned to the home and were there together alone.
Kids go to school. She goes to a doctor. He goes to a coffee place, Starbucks, and they're happily at home. Now, I submit to you that she comes from, say, he's in the kitchen, and she stabs him or jabs him with a syringe full of insulin. He doesn't drop to the floor immediately, does he?
I would have no way of answering that.
Well, you heard the testimony here of the experts. That insulin has a delayed reaction, 15 to 30 minutes. Right?
Yes, I believe that's what the doctor
said. So this woman jabs him, this athlete, and this little girl stabs him with that insulin, and his reaction is, "Thank you, honey. May I have another one?" Now, come on, detective. She would stab him, and his first reaction was, "What the heck was that?"
Actually, she told me that he had been sleeping for 45 minutes to an hour prior to his medical event that morning.
But we've established that it could not have happened in the bed upstairs, could it?
She said he was sleeping on the couch.
So she injected him, and he didn't wake up, right? Is that your testimony?
No, that's not my testimony.
Okay, so she jabs him in the kitchen, and he has 15 minutes to half an hour to react to it, and he does nothing? Is that your testimony here today? He does nothing but drops on the floor after waiting for half an hour?
No, that's not my testimony.
Well, wouldn't it a normal person who got jabbed by... And by the way, that could not have happened in silence. It would be one of those, "You son of a gun, you know, I'm going to stab you, I'm going to kill you, you've done this to me," or whatever. That usually doesn't happen in silence, that type of action. If I stab you, I wouldn't be doing it in silence, would I? So this woman stabs him, true? And then he has 15 minutes to 30 minutes to react.
Objection, Your Honor. This is entirely speculation, and he's placing testimony in the witnesses now.
Well, I think we've gone too far
Okay.
along this line. Let's please move on, Mr. Victor.
Mr. Bledsoe, she wasn't there in the apartment in her house with just Michael. Soon enough, there were about 9 people milling around that house, right? 2 workers, right?
Yes, Mr. Bowen and Mr. Miller were the first to arrive sometime between, I think, around close to 12:30.
Who else?
John Hamilton arrived shortly after they did.
The sister also.
I'm not sure exactly what time she got there.
But she did get
It was
there.
later in the day.
With her boyfriend.
Yes.
And then there was Mr. Davis. So let me
Finally,
ask-
yes.
So let me propose this scenario for you. The defendant who is planning to kill her husband goes to Miss Davis and asks for a murder weapon, right? The insulin.
There was a text between them where the defendant procured a bottle of insulin from Miss Davis, yes.
So if she, for example, wanted to kill him with a gun, she would have obtained a gun from a third person, right?
Objection, Your Honor.
All right.
Speculation.
Sustained.
Okay? Would you agree with me, Mr. Bledsoe, that she just brought 2 people into the potential case against her by asking for the insulin and having the insulin delivered by another person to her home? So now she has 2 witnesses against her, right?
The witnesses could be for or against her.
Okay. And would you also agree with me that all of these people who came later to the house could also be the witnesses against her? Right?
As I stated, for or against.
You heard the testimony that this type of medication cannot kill. That this type of medication, the Humalog, is not a deadly substance.
Objection, Your Honor. That was not anyone's testimony.
Sustained.
Right? You don't have any evidence to suggest, Officer Bledsoe, that my client injected Mr. Cochran later in the day when all of these people were present. Do you?
I think the evidence that was testified to by Dr. Krieger and Dr. Uribe support the theory that was possible. Yes.
Possible? Then I will ask you here today and under oath, sir. Point me in the direction of my client injecting anybody with insulin while all these 7 or 8 or 9 people were present. What time, under what circumstances, where, and with what syringe and what insulin? Point it to the jury. Tell the jury.
Yes. I can't answer that.
Because you don't know. You don't have any of that evidence, do you?
Just refer to my previous answer about the evidence.
All right. No. Hold on. We'll get to it. At the time of, you remember that this case had been dismissed once, pending the second, the autopsy, right?
Which autopsy are you referring to, sir?
Well, the second autopsy upon the second exhumation of Mr. Cochran.
I wasn't a part of the second exhumation in any way.
Okay? At the time this case was indicted, in 2023, all your evidence suggested that there was no insulin involved in this case. True?
No,
No?
that's not true.
Well, medical evidence by Dr. Kubitschek. What did it tell you?
You have to be more specific which
Well,
medical
you heard him
evidence.
testify. There was no evidence of the intentional homicide, right?
I believe his report reflected that it was undetermined.
Right. Prior to Dr. Krieger and her involvement in this case, point me to the evidence, medical evidence, that insulin was involved in this case. You don't have any.
I think the blood glucose level of Michael Cochran would be considered medical evidence that
When and by whom?
at Raleigh General Hospital on the February the 6th date when he was taken there.
Show me the evidence that would indicate that, I'll show the jury the evidence, that the Raleigh General Hospital believed Michael's death as a homicide or suspicious for homicide.
That was not.
How can he answer that?
I agree. The court has to sustain the objection.
Okay. Then you have Dr. Krieger, whom the prosecutor hired, and Dr. Uribe, and these two came up with the concept of insulin injection being the murder weapon, right?
I don't believe I heard either one of them testify that to a murder weapon.
Well then, from your thorough investigation of this case, Mr. Bledsoe, how was this poison administered?
I can't answer that.
Can't answer that. Now, I want to ask you something else. You testified in this case that, and you testified before the grand jury, right? In this case.
Yes, sir.
And the gist of your testimony before the grand jury was that Michael was about to find out the whole scope of my client's financial improprieties, right?
Are you referring directly to my grand jury testimony?
Well, I mean, all right, forget your grand jury. You believe that Michael was about to find out about my client being a dishonest fraud who deceived even him, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And somehow she killed him because he was going to do what? He was going to run to the feds. He was going to expose her. He was going to kill her himself. What the heck was he going to do when he learned all of this?
I have no way of knowing. I never got the opportunity to ask him.
Well, but Mr. Bledsoe, we are looking at a person who has been married to his high school sweetheart for 17 years, who has 2 children with her, and all of a sudden he finds out that this sweetheart is cheating. She's a fraud, right? Well, First reaction, wouldn't the first reaction be, well, let's talk about it, honey. What happened? Let's think about it. Let's call a lawyer. Right?
Your Honor, we're speculating again.
Well,
We're going down the road that we probably shouldn't, so I'm going to sustain the objection.
she had no reason to kill him because we have no idea what this man would have done, even if she told him, honey, I'm a cheat, she had no reason to kill him.
No, I wouldn't agree with that.
No, she had the reason to kill him because he was going to do what? He was going to kill her? What the heck? Officer, come on.
No, I never said that he was going to kill her.
Well, what was he going to do? So that she had to take such a drastic measure as to kill him.
Objection, Your Honor. This has already been asked and answered. He said already that he did not know what Michael was going to do because he never got a chance to ask him.
I'll allow that question to stand. Answer if you can, officer.
Could you repeat that, please?
What would he do if he learned that she was a cheat?
I don't know what he would have done.
Okay. Now, you talked to several witnesses in this case, including Mr. Treadway, right?
Mr. Treadway?
Yes.
That's not correct.
You didn't?
I sure wanted to and attempted to, but he refused to meet and speak with me.
Okay. How about Mr. Bowen?
Could you be more Jason Bowen?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Did Mr. Oh, let me see. Where's Mr. Bowen's list? Did Mr. Bowen tell you that in February of 2019, shortly before Michael's death, Michael appeared foggy, out of it, loopy? You remember that?
Is that being taken directly from an interview that I did with him?
Yeah, it is. We
Yes,
can play
that-
it. And you
yes.
remember now?
Yes, that sounds accurate.
Okay. That Michael was sweating. Michael was off balance. Michael wasn't himself. Remember that?
I don't remember it verbatim, though, but that sounds consistent, yes.
Okay. You remember a situation when Mr. Davis testified that Michael, I think it was in January of 2019, Michael was doing some kind of a job repairing somebody's light fixtures, right?
I believe he was assisting Mr. Davis with the installation of a ceiling fan, as I recall.
And appeared to be completely out of it.
No, that's not accurate.
Now he was confused.
I don't remember exactly how Mr. Davis described that. I know he wasn't overly concerned about it because he laughed and told me, he said, but man, he said, we got ceiling fan installed. So it didn't rise to a level of great concern for Mr. Davis, but he felt it was necessary for us to know that.
Do you remember talking to Michael Davis about this case?
To who? I'm sorry.
To Michael, I'm sorry, to Chris Davis.
Chris Davis, yes.
Do you remember having Mr. Davis advising you that Michael Cochran in February of 2019 appeared to mentally struggle while assisting him with the installation of a ceiling fan?
Yes, that's what I just described.
That's in your report.
Yes.
He also described Mr. Cochran as having outbursts of stress and anger. And he never observed that before in Michael. Do you remember that?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. You knew that Michael was using all kinds of supplements, right?
I didn't know that. I was told that by the defendant, yes.
Well, Mr. Bowen, for that matter, told you that Michael took as many as 35 supplements a day. We can play that statement.
If you're saying that came from his statement, then yes, I'll agree with that.
Mr. Bowen also said that Michael used a dropper to administer enclophamine. Remember that? He would take a couple of drops at a time.
Did he name that specific substance?
Substance being discussed, and the substance being discussed, from what I understand, was enclophamine.
I don't recall that directly, but
Okay.
if
Now, do you remember a witness, and I think it was maybe Mr. Bowen, who told you that Michael got confused in a grocery store, didn't know where he was, couldn't recognize his car in a parking lot.
I believe that, I'm not sure where the location was. I believe the way he characterized that is Mr. Cochran couldn't remember where he'd parked his vehicle.
I see. Did you know that Michael Cochran apparently hated Panera Bread, the restaurant?
No, I did
No,
not.
of course. And a witness testified, the testimony would be that he actually went there and didn't know where he was. Would that surprise you?
Who said that?
That would be Mr. Treadway.
Again, I would have been glad to talk to Mr. Treadway, but he refused.
Okay. Wouldn't it be fair to say, Mr. Bledsoe, that Michael wasn't himself the last couple of months between the time he was in a hospital and the time when he actually collapsed in a home?
Yes, I believe that's fair to say. He was definitely exhibiting signs, I think, of stress and over not being able to find out where his money was that was supposed to be in the bank.
Sure, I understand that. But he also exhibited some serious illnesses, and he was prescribed some serious medication. And I'd like to ask you whether you know whether he was ever diagnosed with seizures and acute encephalopathy.
I don't recall
No?
if he was specifically diagnosed with that or not.
Well, did you read the report of Dr. Ward? I mean, it's in the discovery. Just give it to us. You gave it to us.
I'm sure that, yes, that I reviewed those documents. It's been many years ago, and sitting here right now to recall it off the top of my head.
So if he had an acute condition of seizures, encephalopathy, and was prescribed medication that I probably cannot even pronounce, lamotrigine, serious medication against seizures, anticonvulsant, would that surprise you? He had that condition?
Without actually seeing the documents and being able to know exactly how it's phrased and see the exact verbiage, I can't really say if it would surprise me or not. I know he sought treatment and was treated for various symptoms and possibilities of different medical conditions, but I don't ever remember seeing a clear diagnosis that definitively said this is exactly what's wrong with Michael Cochran.
He was treated to the extent that he refused to take the medication. Did you know that?
I have been told that.
You've been told that. He refused to take what medication, sir?
it was referred to as seizure medication.
That's not good, is it?
I don't know.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and take our afternoon break at this time. Ladies and gentlemen, please do not discuss the case among yourselves or with anyone else. We'll break for 10 or 15 minutes or so. You may go with the bailiff to your jury room now.
All right, so we're going to stay here, but we'll review what just happened. Trooper Bledsoe is on the cross. He's on the hot seat for Mr. Victor here. So right out of the gates, he says, "Did you lose any money or assets through the Ponzi scheme?" And Trooper Bledsoe says no. So no personal interest in the case. Of course, he says no. He shown documents and said Mike was on those documents. Oh, what are they doing? Where are they going? What's the camera person going to zoom in on? They're just going to go to a blank wall. All right. Let's see. So Mike, the documents were 2021. Natalie was indicted in 2019. Mike had been deleted for about a half year. Listed Mike as a partner in both businesses and search warrant. They did business. He spent a lot of time on, they did business online. Mike was working as a computer specialist doing work online. Then he talked about the signatories for the bank account. Talked a lot about the money. Assets were $5 billion. How did Mike not know that this was going on? $14,000 rings. Wasn't a ramshackle affair. The properties that they bought. Piddly. He mentioned piddly. They had a lifestyle of the rich and famous. Mike was knew about the weapons. I guess he ultimately was just trying to show the jury that Mike was very involved in this, in the two companies. And just say blah blah blah. Yeah, Mike was very very involved with these companies, and of course he knew what was going on. So then there was no motive for Natalie to delete him. I think that's what he's trying to drive at. I'm guessing that's what he's driving at. Let's see. So Natalie went to the doctor both the 5th and the 6th. She complained about all kinds of problems, and she got her shots and her medications. And then they talked about the cancer for a little bit, that they didn't see anything. They didn't see anything resembling cancer, but oncology was brought up. How did you get into her medical records? Bledsoe says subpoena. Is she a model of health? He's like, no, that's not what I'm saying. What's wrong with her? And ultimately he says she has a heart issue. Do they have kids? Yes, but he didn't interview them. He talked about Mike being the dominant figure in the marriage. Mike controlled access to the computer. Didn't know that. Mike had a phone for 2 months before letting Natalie use it. Didn't know that. Oh, camera's swinging all around. Obtained Mike's medical records. Heard about back surgery through the trial, but not in the records. After Mike went to the hospital October 31st, I believe it was the year before, he had altered mental state, seizures, enlarged heart, fever, urinary retention, rash, chronic sinusitis. And after that, Mike said that he was not going back. I guess I wouldn't go back after all that. But Trooper Bledsoe said that it was Natalie that told him that Mike used supplements. Do you have any direct evidence that Natalie injected Mike? No punctures, syringes, and he says no. There is no direct evidence. and yet they're saying that Mike injected himself. The defense is saying that Mike injected himself with supplements and insulin. It's kind of confusing, right? Mr. Victor is trying to have it both ways, that Mike injected himself and yet there were no puncture wounds found. So which is it? Then he goes on to talk about the contractors arrived around 12:30. John Hamilton showed up shortly after that. Sister and boyfriend, Chris Davis. So there were 7 to 9 witnesses at the home. When is Natalie going to have a chance to inject him? Well, maybe the initial injection was, here, honey, I'm going to help you with some, steroids or supplements, and she injects him. Although Dr. Krieger did say the last injection would have been late afternoon. I mean, it's possible. Not 7 or 9 witnesses that were there the entire time, and they weren't all huddled around Mike. So it's definitely possible. Yeah, Victor is definitely just making. He's basically testifying for the defense. He's asking questions, but he's testifying for the defense. He's getting in all kinds of information that are just, I think Brett said, just factually not true. So one poll was thoughts on Natalie so far. 67% thought she was guilty. 2% think she's not guilty. Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh man, that just hit me. I'm sorry. Thoughts on Natalie so far. 67% thought that she was guilty. 2% thought she was not guilty, and 29% think that they're not sure yet. So 67% guilty, 2% not guilty, 29% not sure yet. Then I got another, here, I'll end this one. Let's end this one. All right. Thoughts on Mr. Victor's cross tactics. Love it. He's the bomb. 16% think that. I need to take a benzo to relax. 10% thought that. Good to know we don't have any pill poppers out there. I can't type fast enough to object. 20%. And I'm ready to poke my eyes out. 52%. All right. So there we go. All right. While we wait, let's get to some of your comments and questions. What do we got happening? Okay. Oh, Baca of 3. God, I am like really yawny right now. I'm so sorry. God, wake up, Chris. Wake up. Ugh. Okay, day 5 after lunch. Defense objection 0. Prosecution objections 2 overruled, 6 sustained. Therapist, team benzo. BAP, I chose the benzo option. Oh, and the 3-letter word, yes. Oh, yes, yeah. Do you think Natalie was? He said, do you think Natalie was being kind when she said the back? He injected in his back. She could have been saying, 3-letter word that starts with an A. And arm, art, ack. Oh, that was funny. Jenny's the eye poker group. And he's not finishing yet. Yeah, that was a tiring cross. Let me move this here. Oof. Joe Schmo, the thing about those poll questions is there are 2 different relevant ways to phrase it. 1, how would you vote right now if you were on the jury? And 2, how do you think the jury will rule? Yeah, you know what, Joe? It has nothing to do with the jury. This is just straight up for our chat. But I could put in... Well, when it's specific for the jury, I'm always like, how do you think the jury will vote? But yeah, this is just straight up for our chat. But sure. Brett says, if she said backside, yes. If she said back, no. Yeah, she just said the back. She didn't say, his backside. Because everybody knows what a backside is, Therapist, I'm not giving this guy the power to take one of my eyeballs. Yep. Oh, why am I so yawny right now? Jeez. Okay. Yes, Nan R. Defense thrives and wins more often if the jury is confused. Typical. Totally agree. I'm on the fence still. I mean, there's a lot of circumstantial evidence, and they said that's exactly what this is, but there's no smoking gun, so that's tough. Brad says Mike injected himself with insulin, but Natalie reported normal blood sugars numbers for hours. Right. Lee K says, wish we could see the jury during this cross-examination. It's after lunch and probably snoozing. I know, weather maybe can make you sleepy. Yeah, it's pretty gloomy out and it's cold. I just want to like curl up in my bed under some covers or on a couch next to a fire. Brett says, Joe, another option. What do you think of actual guilt as contrasted with proven beyond a reasonable doubt? Yeah, that's true. Trial Junkies United. Objection, I don't care how you are making me on. I don't know how you are making me on too. I know, Mandy, I have to lay down. He exhausted me. Brad, how could you snooze with Mr. Victor in the room? I know, he's very entertaining. I definitely will give him that. Just right now, I'm just so yawny. Jenny says, but didn't they say they didn't find any blood testing devices there? Yeah, what did she, let's see. Hold on, everyone jog around the room 3 times and stretch. Stretch. Okay, there's my stretches. Therapist, you know, prosecution has obviously been sleeping. Therapist, you know, that's one word for it, entertaining. Yeah, I wasn't yawny when I was listening to him, but now I'm like, just so yawny. Joe comes back at Brad, 100% factual innocent, factually guilty. Factually innocent, factually guilty, and proof or not beyond a reasonable doubt. Fall asks, where is Kitty? All right, time for Kitty. Kitty 1 is over there. Super Ball is over there. And Polly is over there. Do you see her? Let's see. She's right there. And Rafa is out in the living room. Lee K says, I have no doubt she is guilty. She let him lay there conked out. I know, we will go back and forth with that. Fala, oh, such a kind word, entertaining. Trial Junkies United, objection, can someone take the pulse of the prosecution? Oh, can someone take the pulse of the prosecution? Yes, I agree. Jenny says, I hope the state comes back with some good redirect. Well, it's going to be Ken gave us her name. Ashley Accord. It's going to be her. So she's young, so we'll see what she comes back with. Sleeping like my kitties, yes. Kitties. Follow, you're welcome. Ken, I didn't know Trial TV was a cat. Yes. Trial TV Live is a cat. The kitties are more entertaining than Schultze, Trial Junkies United say. Let's see. I'll get back to you on that one, Aaron. Chat thinks that you're a cat. All right, Brat says she reports a temp of 103, but when someone comes over, she has no thermometer. She reports normal blood sugar. I'm not convinced she actually tested that either. And Brat continues, and if she did test, I don't believe the number she reported. Jenny says, I haven't been too overly impressed with her yet. She's a little, yeah, Miss Accord, she's a little scattered. Baca says, I shot myself with Novocaine for the remainder of this root canal of a cross. Right? Ding, fries are done. That was a message coming in. But yes, good one, Fala. There's that ding again. Fries are done. Mr. Victor, what are we going to do with you, Mr. Victor? What is your first name? I forgot. Matthew Victor. Mr. Matthew Victor and Mr. Sheldon. What's Sheldon's first name? Stanley Sheldon and Matthew Victor. Joe Schmo, cat naps are the best. I've been told that I nap like a cat at least twice a day. Is it time for one now? Yeah. Brett, would you like fries with that cross? Shirley Roth says the prosecutor will say if you can't believe her on one thing, you shouldn't believe her on anything else. That is true. Jenny, you had some fries earlier. I had some leftover pizza and some a red sauce mixture that I made, but I shouldn't be sleepy. It shouldn't make me sleepy. Oh, I know which one you're talking about, Fala. I know exactly which Family Guy episode you're talking about. Brenda Meyer asks, does Natalie still have a lot of money? Her lawyer wants some. Well, she's been in jail, and they probably have confiscated all kinds of stuff, all of her assets, I'm sure. Pammy says that's odd. Each of their names are two first names, right? Ken Rosenberg says, Ms. Accord has a challenge ahead. It's tough to deal with a lawyer like this, but she's there for a reason. Unheard of to find yourself prosecuting a homicide in my area after 4 years practicing. Yeah, she knows what she's doing. She's a little scattered because she said a couple times, her evidence, her notes were out of order. She does seem a little scattered, but we'll see what happens with redirect. Case Swan says, I guess if I was on trial, I'd want a guy like this as well. Yeah, but he's so abrasive. Like, how's the jury taking him? He's cutting off the witnesses. He's asking questions. He's really condescending, just incredibly condescending. Like, more so than a lot of people need to be. Julie, Victor, Victoria, right? Brett says, given her knowledge, even in this case by her attorneys, history of successfully lying to the whole town, I'd have a tough time believing her if she said the sky was blue. And Fowler says, but Sheldon has to confirm with co-counsel every time. That is true. Widespread panic. Let's see. I think that's exactly what they'll say, Shirley. What did Shirley say? Oh, yes, because the prosecution will say if you can't believe her on one thing, you shouldn't believe her on anything else. Therapist, I'd take her disorganization over this tomfoolery if I had my druthers. Wow, you just dropped some good words there. Tomfoolery and druthers. Love it. Baka of 3, OG. This attorney is too abrasive even for defense standards. He's pretty grating. I agree. Pretty grating. Only fan, I feel he's laid out the prosecution's case actually by his scenarios. Yes, exactly. He's like telling the jury, he's giving them theories. Like, why are you giving them theories? Like if you have 7 or 9 people there, how on earth could she possibly find time to, poke him? He kept saying stab. I don't know. You're putting that in my head. Stop putting that in my head. Trial Junkies United. If I was on the jury, I would ignore him. He has side his client is a bad gal, yeah. So I think of her in a positive light if her, yeah. Oh, he has said his client is a bad girl. Rocky and Bullwinkle. Kerviel, you need the jury to like you. This behavior doesn't work. Larkin and Lawthorpe, the defense attorneys for George Kelly, are the ones I would call if I needed defense attorneys. Yeah, how about Yannetti and Jackson? I would definitely call those two. OnlyFan, I would use Victor's testimony in his closings. Yes, Shirley Roth, Boris from Rocky and Bullwinkle, and his wife Natasha. Mandy Strong says, when the facts are on your side, you argue the facts. When the facts are not on your side, you just argue. She's guilty. Yeah, Jenny, I agree. I don't know why they aren't stopping him from testifying instead of asking questions. He literally is just testifying at times. Brad says, defense insists that they know more about an expert's field than the expert. Yep. And they ask a question. When they get an answer, say something like, wouldn't you acknowledge? And the opposite. Shirley Rother, maybe she used a dropper. What? Could be. Mandy Strong, the dropper. The defense attorney introduced a dropper, which is how she would have been poisoning him. I know. Stabby bad girl. Aw. Yes, therapist. You were hanging out with your grandmother earlier today. She gets all the kudos. Lena Chendi, thank you for joining us. Detective needs to look up and give a sense of assurity to the jury. He's appearing as meek with his head down, looking downward. Baka of 3. Yes, they actually made it past a half a day. Yes, they have. And only 2 witnesses so far. This is just incredible. I've never seen so little witness testimony. Day 3, there was only 2. Day 4, there was 3. Today we've only had 2. Day 1 there was 3, and then there's other trials where we watch where they have like was it Tracy Nix, the grandmother that forgot about her granddaughter. Remember that one in Florida? They had like 15 witnesses in one day. It's just incredible how, just the flow. Ken says, I really want to know about the oncology line of questioning. That was weird, and I don't put it past Victor to take advantage of a witness's personal life. Justice says, I wonder if the defense have any proof that he belongs to any gym or have workout equipment at home. Yeah, good question. Mandy Strong, the defense better introduce Natalie's stage 3 cancer diagnosis and cancer treatment records or they are toast. Yeah, now that it's kind of come out. Right? Bossy Muma. She wants defense to think she is disorganized. Will come out fighting with closing. All right. Well, we're waiting for her redirect. We'll see what happens. Falda says he wasn't like that until after the cancer comments. That was hard. Yeah, he definitely, something hit him pretty hard. Either he lost somebody really close or several people. That definitely shook him to his core. Or he's going through it himself right now or something. Brad says that bit about introducing something damaging to their client during cross has been a recurring theme for days. Are they setting up an ineffectual assistance of counsel appeal or what? Julie, yeah, that's because the bullhards keep stretching things out. Every witness they cross, every witness. I mean, how many trials have we watched where they, no cross, no cross, no cross? This is literally every witness is being crossed. Every witness. Every single witness has been crossed, I think. I don't think there's been one no cross. Let me look that up. Hold on. Yeah, not a single witness has not been crossed. Every single one has been crossed. Right? That's insane. Shamrock, Truth, Facts, Justice. Has the judge done any advisement to the jury that the questions are not testimony? I've seen that occur in other cases. Not yet. No. They're just letting him. I think the judge at one point, prosecution did object, and I think the judge said, yeah, okay, let's move on. Maybe twice. But pretty much, yeah. Yeah, therapist, they clip through them very quickly for Nix. Only fan. I'm waiting for the expert pathologist, Dr. Benjuri. Yeah, Ken. He just sort of froze for a while. He was obviously reacting. Yeah, it's almost. Yeah, he almost welled up. Trooper Bledsoe there. So Jenny also agrees with Mandy that there's some question about the cancer. But Shirley says she never had it. It was covering up what she was doing. Really, only fan. I think it should be Dr. Priya Banjari, who comes on Court TV quite a bit. I'm not familiar with her. I'm better with faces than names. Julie says, if someone on the jury has gone through something like that and they find out she lied about cancer, oof. Yeah, agreed. Baca, it's been taking so long because Victor's giving everyone a colonoscopy while on the stand. No, Justice. After today, we'll associate Panera with this trial. No. Fala says they crossed the one guy on how his name was spelled versus pronounced. Yeah, Gleam. Yeah, Gleam. Yeah, that was Sheldon that did that. Yeah, Earl Gleam. How else would you pronounce Gliem? Gleam? I would probably pronounce that Gleam. That would be my guess. Ola says we are presuming too much. That's what we do here, Ola. We speculate and we presume. Therapist, it's like he makes each witness answer questions regarding every step of the investigation. So aggravating. I agree. OnlyFan, they're back. All right, we'll get to that. Hold on.
Take up at this time, please. Anything from the state?
Nothing on behalf of the state, Your Honor.
Anything from the defense? Bring in the jury. All right, we are right in the middle of cross-examination of the state's witness. You may continue, Mr. Victor.
Maybe we're closer to the end, Your Honor.
Okay.
Did you know that Mr. Cochran was using the so-called smart drugs from nootropics?
I'm not familiar with that term, smart drugs. I don't know
Well, you
what that
gave
is.
us the discovery. You did all this investigation. You didn't know that Mr. Cochran was using substances that you didn't even know about?
If it was a discovery, that doesn't necessarily mean that I had knowledge that he was actually using anything.
Did you hear anything about Mr. Cochran using substances that boosted the brain performance?
No, I don't recall hearing that.
Anything about substances that increase the memory of a person who uses them?
No, like I said, only, I guess, supplement information that I was given was by the defendant after Mr. Cochran was deceased.
Did you know that he used any stimulants to keep him awake?
No.
Did you know that he was using substances that had pretty serious side effects, such as high blood pressure, fast heart rate, insomnia, trouble sleeping? Did you know that he was using these substances?
I don't know what substance you're referring to.
For example, provisional.
Could you pronounce that again?
Provigil. Provisional.
I don't know if he was using that or not.
How about substances like Adderall, Ritalin?
Do I know if he was using them?
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't know that.
Okay. All right. You participated in the search of the Cochran residence in June of 2019, right?
That's correct.
And you were there to seek financial information, right?
It's a wide variety of things we were there seeking as part of that search warrant.
Well, the search warrant provided mostly for the evidence of financial crimes. You weren't searching anything related to murder, were you?
No.
No. May I?
Yes.
May I approach the witness?
Yes, you may.
Showing you what's been marked as the defense exhibit number 9. It may be 9, 10, or 11, or it's 9.
It says 9 and 4 photos.
Okay, so it's collective 9.
Yes, sir.
Would you tell us what that is?
It's a vial with the label Humalog on it.
Is it true, sir, that you found that vial in the refrigerator of Mrs. Cochran's?
That's correct.
Okay. And that was the vial that has already been discussed here before this jury in this case, right?
That's correct.
Mr. Cochran died in February of 2019, right?
Yes.
And you find this vial in June. That would be June. Well, I don't remember the exact date. June what?
I believe the search warrant was on June 25th of 2019.
Okay. Well, some 4 months later.
Yes.
Looking at this exhibit, would you agree with me that this bottle is full?
No.
No? Look at the second picture. Would you agree with me that that bottle is, that's the same bottle, isn't it?
It appears to be, yes.
Yeah. And that bottle is full.
I can't tell anything at all from this picture
You can't, okay?
as far as the level of contents.
Okay. And would you flip to the next page? And that bottle appears to be full. Am I correct or am I wrong?
Same answer. I can't tell from this picture. I can't make an assessment.
Remember the testimony of the expert who said that you would have to inject somebody with a fair amount, and she did that, if I remember the gesture, something like that. Remember that? To cause the death with that type of insulin.
Which expert are you referring to?
Dr. Krieger. She said she used the word fair amount.
That sounds accurate.
So does it appear to you, and we don't know exactly where this gesture stopped, but would it appear to you that a fair amount of substance from this bottle has been withdrawn?
I can't testify to what Dr. Krieger believes is a fair amount based on a hand signal.
Would you agree with me, sir, that as you sit here today, you cannot tell this jury with any degree of certainty that this bottle that was found in the refrigerator of my clients is the bottle that was used by in your case, what you believe, as the murder weapon?
Can you ask me that again, please?
This is not the bottle that was used and its substance been used to allegedly inject Mr. Cochran. You have no evidence of that.
I can't say if it is or it isn't.
Do you have any evidence whatsoever that it is? Let me ask you this before you maybe ask you another question. You have any fingerprints on that bottle?
Not that I'm aware of.
You have any DNA on this bottle? We're talking about a murder case, talking about a murder weapon.
No.
You would expect the Quantico people and you and everybody else to examine this bottle from top to bottom for fingerprints, for DNA, for any sign of connection between this bottle and this person, my client. Do you have any scientific evidence or any evidence that this is the bottle that caused the death, on the substance that caused the death of Michael Cochran?
No, not this particular bottle. I can't say either way, if it is or it isn't.
Okay. If I may retrieve the exhibit.
Very well.
Can you get insulin over the counter?
I really don't know. I've heard conflicting answers on that.
Okay. Can a pharmacist get insulin over the counter, or if she's planning a murder with insulin, can we maybe take some from the supplies of the pharmacy where she's working?
Are we speaking hypothetically?
Well, let's say can a pharmacist have access to insulin?
I would imagine a pharmacist can if they're dispensing it, yes.
Okay. And if somebody wants to use insulin as a murder weapon, they can obtain it without any major suspicion or any major problems.
As long as they are actually employed as a pharmacist and actively working as a pharmacist.
Or if they know people in the pharmacy business, and maybe they can get some on the slide. Right?
I would hope not, but I guess it's possible.
And they may not necessarily need to ask a neighbor for the insulin, that they can get themselves over the counter.
I can't answer that question.
Okay. Do you know what kind of insulin you can get over the counter?
No, sir.
Okay. Wouldn't that be one of your basic questions before you accused my client of murdering Mr. Cochran with insulin?
Your client told me that she could buy insulin over the counter in one of the interviews that I did with her.
Okay. All right. If I may have a second.
Very well.
That's all the questions I have of this witness.
All right, redirect.
Yes, Your Honor. And I will go ahead and advise the court, since I will need help, I'm going to need the projector again.
I'm sorry?
I will go ahead and advise that I will need help with the projector again.
Oh, okay.
Your Honor, may we approach on one of the proposed exhibits?
All right, you may proceed, Ms. Akron.
Lieutenant Bledsoe, you have experience working in federal court, right?
Yes.
So you're familiar with the topic of unindicted co-conspirators?
Yes.
So, if you believe that Michael was involved, could you have pursued conspiracy charges against Ms. Cochran?
Could you rephrase that or repeat that? I'm sorry.
If you believe that Michael was involved in the federal charges, could you have pursued conspiracy charges against Mrs. Cochran?
Yes.
But you did not do that, correct?
No, we did not.
The properties that were named in the forfeiture were owned by both of the Cochrans when Michael was alive, right?
Correct.
And we've seen that Michael's name was on all of the various bank accounts of the two companies. Does this tell you what he did or didn't know about the businesses at all?
No.
Now, the checks that you've seen that Michael wrote total a couple $1,000s, is that right?
I believe so. I believe that sounds accurate.
Just as an example, is that one of those checks?
Yes.
How much money passed through TSG total?
I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head.
Okay.
What document were you referring to, Ms. Aker?
I'm sorry, Your Honor. That was Defendant's Exhibit. I believe it was Defendant's Exhibit 5, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Your Honor, at this time, I would ask for this document to be marked as the state's next exhibit.
All right.
Number 28 for the state, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Now, defense counsel told you that the Bank of America account was never opened. Is that right?
That's correct.
What does this check tell you?
That it's a check printed with Bank of America, an account number on the bottom, Tactical Solutions Group, LLC, and it appears to be a check that was written for deposit only to another account.
But it is the Bank of America check?
It is, yes.
Now, during your investigation, you saw a text between the defendant and Michael Cochran during the time that he allegedly had her phone. Is that right?
Yes.
Can you tell me what nootropic source is, from your understanding?
It was included, I believe, either on the bottle of enclomiphene or on orders that I saw for the bottles of enclomiphene.
Your Honor, I'd ask that this be marked as the state's next exhibit.
Exhibit number 29, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Now, Lieutenant Bledsoe, is that your email signature at the top of the page?
Yes, it is.
Was this email sent to you?
It was.
And who was it sent from?
It was sent from the defendant.
And what does that tell you about who between the Cochrans was interacting with Nootropic Source?
I'm going to object. This message doesn't tell him anything.
I think you have to sustain the objection. You could rephrase Ms. Avery.
This is further down on the same email. I'm sorry. This was forwarded, right?
Yes.
That's the top of the page. Does this tell you who was attempting to order the enclomiphene?
Yes, the defendant.
Thank you. Are you at all familiar with insulin needles?
No.
So you wouldn't know about the size of that needle at all, right?
No.
Now, I know the defense counsel repeatedly asked you for direct evidence of our murder investigation, which we have repeatedly stated that we don't have, right?
Correct.
What circumstantial evidence led you to charge the defendant with murder?
I'm going to object as asked and answered at least twice.
I don't believe it has been, Your Honor.
Overruled. I'll permit it.
What circumstantial evidence do you have that led you to believe the defendant committed the murder of Michael Cochran?
The actions of Michael Cochran and the text messages between Michael Cochran and the defendant.
And it was your testimony earlier that the defendant, in fact, told you that Michael was, quote, doing the best he's ever done in his life. Is that right?
That's correct.
The morning of February 6th, did Natalie purport to get both herself and Michael medications?
She did.
And just for clarification, who's that text message from?
It's from the defendant to Michael Cochran.
And lastly, was Natalie Cochran employed as a pharmacist at the time of Michael's death?
No, she was not.
And I'm sorry, Your Honor, I neglected to have this exhibit marked.
States exhibit number 30.
Your Honor, this time I would ask that State Exhibits 28, 29, and 30 be entered into evidence.
Any objection?
I object to the exhibit previously mentioned. I don't know what the number is. 28,
For the reasons stated,
for the reasons stated at the bench
All right.
conference.
I'm going to admit 28, 29, and 30. 28 over the defense objection, but I'll reserve exceptions.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
All right, recross, Mr. Victor.
May I see 28, please? I'll hand you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 28 and tell the jury what it is.
It appears to be copies of checks that were written on an account at Bank of America for the Business Tactical Solutions Group, LLC.
Would you tell the jury if there are any checks written while Michael Cochran was alive?
Give me just a second to review them. see any, no, sir.
So after Michael Cochran's death, would it be fair to say that the defendant opened the account and wrote the checks on it as part of her fraud?
No.
No? Show me the evidence, if you can, that my client opened that account prior to February 5th or 6th, the flight to Lynchburg, Virginia. Show me any evidence that she opened that account prior to that date.
During my interview with Mr. Nexon, that was what I understood him to relay to me, was that she had contacted their bank, the defendant had contacted their bank for the purpose of opening an account.
Yeah, for the purposes of opening that account. I didn't ask you what the purpose was. I asked you whether they had an account open prior to February 6th of 2019.
I can't say if that account was open prior to that date or not.
And in fact, they were going there they were supposed to go there on the 6th to open the account because the banker, as he testified, needed their signatures, right?
I do recall him saying he needed their signatures, yes.
Well, then why are we beating around the bush? As far as you know, before the February 6th, 2019, that account wasn't open. That account was open later, after Michael's death.
I don't know that.
You don't know that.
Thank you.
Prosecutor asked you whether my client signing the checks told you anything about Michael Cochran knowing or not knowing anything about his business. Is that a fair paraphrase of her question?
I want to answer that. I'm just trying to make sure that I understand it, and I don't know if you could repeat it for me.
There was a question whether Michael knew anything about her business based on these checks, and you said you couldn't tell, right?
Yes.
Right. So just because my client signed business checks after he died, because obviously he couldn't sign any more checks, that doesn't tell you what he knew or had known or didn't know or hadn't known about the business.
That was the whole purpose for his planned meeting at the Bank of America on the 6th,
Right.
was to find out.
So the answer would be yes.
No, my answer is what I answered.
I see. And you said that you had no knowledge of nootropics?
No, sir, I didn't say that.
What did you say?
I said I recalled the term or the word from either the bottle of clomiphene or documentation related to the order, which I have seen since. So it was one or the other, but I did recall that word. I just couldn't exactly remember exactly where.
And you testified on redirect that the messages between my client and her husband are circumstantial proof of her murdering Michael Cochran. Is that what you said?
I said his actions and the text messages, yes.
Actions and the text messages are circumstantial proof that she killed Mr. Cochran.
They're circumstantial and go towards that proof, yes.
Going towards the proof, or are they the proof?
Yes, they're the proof.
They're the proof. Show me the message that you claim is the proof of circumstantial evidence of my client killing Michael Cochran. Show me the one. Show the jury the one.
There's hundreds of them.
Hundreds of them.
Yes.
Well, show me number one.
I don't have them in front of me to show you.
Well, show me number two.
I don't have them here with me.
You're speculating, officer. All right, that's all I have.
ask for that to be stricken.
Withdrawn.
All right, it is withdrawn. Anything further, Ms. Akron?
Just very briefly, Your Honor. Your Honor, I would ask that this be marked as the state's next exhibit. It has been shown to defense counsel.
Very well,
31 for this one, Your Honor.
thanks.
Lieutenant Bledsoe, what are the dates on this account summary from Bank of America?
It says for January 30th, 2019 to January 31st, 2019.
And what day did Michael Cochran die?
February the 11th, 2019.
Thank you. I have no further questions, Your Honor. I would ask that this be moved into evidence.
No objection.
All right, it will be admitted into evidence. Anything further, Ms. Akron?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Victor?
Is it true, sir, that the bank will not open an account unless it has the wet signature of each and every signatory of the account?
Objection, Your Honor. That question should have been posed of the banker that testified. This witness has no way to answer that question.
Sustained.
All right. Did you hear the banker testifying to that effect?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't recall that.
Wasn't that the purpose of Mr. and Mrs. Cochran going to that bank in Virginia to sign off on that account, to open it formally by giving their signatures, putting their signatures to the opening documents of that account?
Mr. Cochran had been told that he was going to be receiving $1.4 billion into that account, and he wanted to make sure.
Yes or no? It wasn't that the point of their trip to?
No, I don't believe it was.
You don't believe it was? That's all.
Anything further, Ms. Akron?
No, Your Honor.
You may step down, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Call your next witness, Ms. Akron.
The state rests, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Members of the jury, you have heard it from the state themselves. They have rested their case. That means they have completed the presentation of their case in chief. This is a good stopping point insofar as you folks are concerned, and we will do that. I need to ask you a very important question. Would you like to have Chick-fil-A biscuits in the morning? I'm going to travel past Chick-fil-A and buy myself a chicken biscuit, and I'll get 14 more if you think that that would be desirable. All right, I will have them for you as a treat in the morning and as a little encouragement to come back tomorrow. Please watch yourselves tonight. don't discuss this matter with family members or friends. They will try to put pressure on you to find out information about this case. We have so much time and effort invested in it now that we need to see it through. So do not watch anything on TV. Do not get online. Do not do any research. Do not listen to anything on the radio. Please keep your minds free and clear of all outside influences so that you'll be in a proper position to decide this case when the time comes. Thank you very much for being here promptly. I will see you first thing in the morning. We'll start up at 9 o'clock. I will have your chicken biscuits in your jury room at least by 8:30, maybe even earlier if I can get out of bed early in the morning. So I will see you tomorrow. You may go with the bailiff to your jury room. Yes.
Before we proceed further, could we approach the bench?
Yes.
All right.
All right. Are there motions at this time?
Your Honor, I'll make a motion for an acquittal in this case. And inasmuch as these motions, in many cases, are perfunctory motions where the evidence is overwhelming, this is not one of those cases. In fact, we can sit here and argue a couple of things and claim that there is sufficient evidence to take this case to the jury. But this case, the prosecutor's case, even if the court looks at this case in the most favorable light to the prosecution, is a collage of little suppositions which, if put together, do not even make a coherent picture. For that matter, they don't even make an incoherent picture. We have the only evidence the state has presented to this court is that at some point my client had in her possession an insulin which we know cannot cause the type of reaction that has caused, in this case, to the alleged victim. We know that my client was perhaps a fraud and a cheat, but we have no motive, and I understand that the motive is not usually considered by the courts in arriving at the decision. Motive for this defendant to kill her husband, and the state produced none. The state admitted to having no direct evidence, but the state cannot even produce circumstantial evidence. If we had circumstantial evidence of the substance that killed Mr. Cochran, we would perhaps not be making this motion. But we don't have that evidence. All we have is a vial of insulin, full and seemingly untouched, even though there seems to be a puncture in a bottle of this insulin that, as stated by the government's experts, cannot kill this victim. What's more, the state's star witnesses, well, at least Dr. Krieger testified that death by insulin is probably one of the reasons, maybe, but we don't know. Then Dr. Uribe stubbornly refused to admit that that there are other possibilities. We have the evidence of the alleged victim being a man of extremely questionable health, and we don't have a murder weapon. We don't have the motive. We don't have the insulin that may have been used. We have a couple of contradictory theories. First, it was the insulin in the morning in the kitchen. Then it was perhaps insulin in the bed. Then it was the insulin perhaps on the couch. These are all guesses. These are all suppositions. These are all innuendos. Then we have insulin that was administered in the morning. Then we have the theory that it was administered later on that afternoon. And that was the evidence that it would have to be continuously administered to cause the death. We have the evidence that this man, even if injected, would have been alive for 15 to 30 minutes to seek any type of help, assistance, aid, or comfort. He didn't do that. We don't have the evidence, direct or circumstantial, that Natalie Cochran killed her husband. And for that reason, I'm asking the court, well, the only evidence that potentially could be brought before this court is some evidence that the state argued for Mr. Cochran not to be taken to the hospital immediately. But that's the evidence of perhaps involuntary manslaughter. Negligent homicide, perhaps. That's a misdemeanor. That's not first-degree murder. Premeditation, when the defendant calls for a murder weapon on the same day and pretty much tells everybody, at least 2 witnesses, I want to kill my husband? That's the evidence? He might have just as well asked for a gun, for a murder weapon. That's not the evidence that the state can hang his hat on. There's no evidence of premeditation. There's no evidence of deliberation here. And for that matter, there is no evidence of malice. And we have also the evidence of no evidence of what Mr. Michael Cochran would have done had he learned about this alleged fraud. We have no idea what he would have done, and therefore there is no evidence that my client needed to kill him for anything. I don't believe there's a shred of evidence in this case, direct or circumstantial, and I ask the court to seriously consider an acquittal.
Thank you, Mr. Victor. Let me hear from the state, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Well, we do agree with the defense that the state does not have to prove motive, although there is evidence of motive. Aside from that, the state's made a prima facie case, and that's all we have to do at this stage. The circumstantial evidence is significant, overwhelming, and a reasonable jury could use it to convict this defendant. That's what they should do, based upon the state of the evidence. The defense has floated a lot of smoke out there, but at the end of the day, when this man went to Raleigh General Hospital, he had a blood glucose of 21. And our experts accounted for that by him being injected with insulin. That's enough. She had motive, she had opportunity, she had the means to do it. She's a diabetes counselor. She's a pharmacist. Putting all that together, there's more than enough evidence to convict. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Truman. The court notes that the state told us all that this would be a circumstantial case. We've heard from significant witnesses, and perhaps the most important one in the court's mind was Dr. Uribe, who testified that the only way this victim could have died would be from insulin. We have heard about a motive that the defendant may have had to proceed in this manner against her husband. The court believes that a prima facie case has been established here, sufficient enough to take the case to the jury. The court is therefore constrained to deny the defendant's motion for judgment of acquittal, and I'll preserve this matter fully for the possibility of a review on appeal. All right, the next item we have to do, I have to advise the defendant of her Newman rights. I have to discuss with her right to testify in her own behalf in this case. For that purpose, we'll have to clear the courtroom of the state and all parties associated with the state, and also I would ask to clear out the media as well, because this is a very private matter, and all parties that are here to observe as well.
All right, we'll stay here. I'm not going to do a full recap yet because I think he's just telling her that, I never heard about that. Newman rights and the right to testify. So we'll stay here before we do a full recap because he said it's a very private moment. Thought we've seen that before in other trials. Yeah, Baca, never seen that happen. Crystal Limited Edition, never seen that one before. All right, so we'll just stay here. And then I'll do a full recap. Oh, wow. I guess that's it. All right. I guess he kicked out the media because he was going to read her or tell her Newman rights and basically the right to testify. But that should only take like 20 seconds, 30 seconds. Let's see, are they going to come back? Yeah, I think that. You think he would come back? Well, we'll stick around anyway, just in case. All right, we'll do a quick recap. I got my eyes on the court just in case they do come back, although probably not much reason they would come back. So we came. Okay, so they took a break. Timothy Bledsoe, Trooper Bledsoe was on the stand. We only got through 2 witnesses today. Unbelievable. Paul Uribe, Dr. Uribe, and Trooper Bledsoe. And it was pretty much a full day, 9:15 to 4 o'clock. So let's see, they came back with the cross. Mr. Victor was on Bledsoe about a vial with Humalog label. The photo was shown. It was found in the refrigerator 4 months later. A fair amount of substance from the bottle has been withdrawn. And Trooper Bledsoe said, can't testify to what Dr. Krieger testified with a hand signal. I guess he was saying, a significant amount. You can't testify with any degree of certainty that this bottle was found in my client's fridge, is the murder weapon. And he said there was no fingerprints or no DNA. So under redirect, which was like, I blinked and I missed it, all I have is Mike's account. Mike's name was on accounts, don't tell you whether he knew about the business. Actions and text messages showed him that there was suspicion. And then I think the checks were what they put into evidence. I think that's what they put into evidence. It happened really fast. I wasn't, plus there was a lot going on. Oh, looks like they are done. Yeah, I think they might be done. All right, we'll stay here then. And then the recross was, where's the evidence that Natalie opened an account prior to the flight to Lynchburg, which would have been February 6th, 2019. Can't say if that account was open before. It's circumstantial evidence, but still proof. Show me the proof. And Mr. Victor was going on and on about, show me the proof, show me the proof. And he's like, you're speculating, officer. And he spit that out, and that was objected to. Then state rested. Thought we were going to hear from an ER doctor, but I guess not, just to confirm who brought him in, what condition he was in. I was really hoping for that, but my wishes were not granted on this case, this trial. Then Mr. Victor asked for a motion of acquittal, saying that the state can't even produce circumstantial evidence. All we have is a vial of seemingly untouched insulin, even though it has a puncture hole in it. And the insulin, the amount of insulin that was used, can't delete somebody. Dr. Krieger said that deleting by insulin is one of the reasons, but maybe we don't know. Dr. Uribe stubbornly said there are other ways. Boy, he did not like Dr. Uribe. Loses control of his bladder. Change his clothes, leave him on the couch. Chris Davis comes over. He's a friend. We're taking him to the hospital. Damaged. Not once did the state ever say anything about bedroom. You, sir, were the one that brought it up, Mr. Victor. So just stop it right there. And then he's like, he believes that you would be alive 15 to 30 minutes to seek aid or help. Again, she could have, here's a theory, she could have said, hey, here's some steroids or here's something, here's some supplements, take it. He shoots himself and it's got insulin. That's a very valid theory, So then he's like, negligent homicide for not taking Mike to the hospital? Sure, maybe. Involuntary manslaughter? Sure, maybe. But for first degree? No. So he's basically, like our chat was saying, he's basically saying, all right, we may get kicked out here, guys. Not quite sure what's going on with our Comcast. We actually got a notice that they're working on our lines, so we may get kicked. We may get kicked out. Then the judge says Dr. Uribe was the most important witness in his opinion. The only way Mike could pass away was from insulin. Seems okay now. Okay, good. So he denied that motion, and then he said he brought up the Newman rights. which was the right to testify, and that was a very personal thing. So that's where we stand. All right. We get about every fourth word, Squeegee. We can recap. Thank you for your hard work. So are we all? Is our Comcast screwy with you guys? Sorry. We actually got a notice that Comcast was working on our lines, guys. How is it now? Any better? Can you hear me now? All right. Julie, non-prescription insulin is made from older formulations of diabetes drugs, which some clinicians consider obsolete. While some endocrinologists support the idea of using it as an affordable treatment option under a doctor's care, others believe that the use of OTC insulin should be reserved for rare scenarios. Mandy Strong says, unless you know someone diabetic and prescribed Novolin N, you wouldn't know you can get it over the counter. I wonder how many more are available over the counter, OTC. Brad says, demands conviction on a lesser included offense instead. Yeah, that is exactly what. Curviel says she switched the labels, only she would have access to a label. Hey Mari, how you doing? I didn't know you could buy insulin at Walmart over the counter. News to me. Baca, fantastic. Thank you. Day 5, prosecution objections, 2 sustained, defense objections, 2 overruled, 1 sustained. State now rests. Thank you, Baca, for keeping us informed. Tiny little buffer, but we're all good. Yeah, we actually got a notice from them that they'd be working on our lines. Go figure. Now they tell us. OnlyFan says Walmart sells Relion insulin, its own brand of insulin, which is available over the counter. And then OnlyFan says, no, you can't buy Humalog, Lispro, over the counter at Walmart. Humalog is an insulin analog that requires a prescription. Krista, limited edition. What time is tonight's live? Thank you for asking. It will be at 8 o'clock Eastern. 8 o'clock Eastern. You guys do not want to miss it. It's going to be really, really good. I'll talk about it in a little bit. It's going to be really good. A little bit better, but missed some words. All right. Sorry, guys. You're hearing every other word. Dream Landry. Okay, I refreshed again. Showing that I'm not dropping any frames, but that doesn't mean anything. All right. Yes, OnlyFan, you are correct. 8 Eastern, 8 o'clock Eastern. Mandy Strong says Novolin N insulin available over the counter is not fast acting. It's an intermediate acting insulin. All right, therapist. We'll see you a little bit later. Much love to you. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you and all that you do. Dream of Landry giving some love, some odd love. Okay. Curviel says line work might be good if it fixes your ongoing issues permanently. Curviel, they've replaced our main line to the house, our line from that line into our house, the modem 3 times. It's not us, unfortunately it's them. But thank you for that. Krista, limited edition. So I think that's 6 p.m. for me. I'm not good with time zones. I'll figure it out. Thank you. Mari, Sarah Boone didn't call police till hours later. Why didn't help the man while using her camera? That's the main question that we're all contemplating. Multiple people said, even a PA, a physician's assistant, came in and said, this guy needs help, Mike needs help, She said no. Brad says, imagine if she had both the over-the-counter and her neighbors, mixing quick acting and intermediate acting. Yeah. So it's much better now? Cool. 0 issues? Cool. All right, thank you, Comcast. Trial Junkies United. Objection! Tell Rafa that the cable is nothing to play with. He must be a good boy. I know. Yeah, Mandy, I guess just reboot. I guess just go ahead and reboot, because right now it seems like we're okay. Curveville says the only reason you would delay is if you wanted him to continue to decline to the point he would not recover. 100% agree with that. 100% agree with that. Absolutely. Good. Good, Mandy. Glad. Trial Junkies United. I'm sorry, if I saw a friend in Mike's condition, I would walk out the door and call 911. You know what? I would do the same because it's like, all right, lonely fan, go get your 3 hours of sleep. Thank you so much for doing what you do. Back to Trial Junkies United. Yeah, because let the police figure it out. Let the paramedics figure it out. You know, even this friend of yours is like, no, and I would be the same way. I'd be like, no, I don't want to go to the hospital. But I'm like, you got to go to the hospital. At some point, you got to go to the hospital, right? So let the paramedics, let the police sort it out afterwards. Save the guy's life, you know. Good night, only fan. Trial Junkies United says, my vampire friend. Nan R says, I wonder if they found diabetic test strips in their house. No need to, because they weren't diabetic, right? There was no need to. Trial Junkies United. Mike couldn't even say he didn't want to go. Even though that was what was said amongst the friends and the family, he hates hospitals, he doesn't want to go. At some point, if it's your life, you gotta go. Just as simple as that. You gotta go. I'm not a fan of hospitals and doctors either, but if you gotta go, you gotta go. You know, I'm not gonna not go, but I'm not gonna go because, you know, I was climbing over the fence last year, and I came. It was metal fence and jabbed me right there, and I'm like, oh, I should probably go for tetanus. Did I go? No. Other people would have probably gone. I didn't. So, but, you know, if you're unconscious for, you know, hours, you gotta go. Mandy Strong says, Michael never said he didn't want to go to the hospital. He was unconscious. Natalie is guilty. Mandy, you're really funny. Guilty. I'm not convinced she's not guilty. I'll say that. Is she guilty? I still have doubt, but I don't think she's not guilty, if that makes sense. I would say 0% she's not guilty, because I think she's guilty of something. Is she guilty of this? I don't know. It's still a tough one for me. Curveville says, yep, my dad got sick. He didn't tell us, but he told my aunt 1,000 miles away, insisted he was okay. She called emergency services anyhow, and he was in ICU for 3 weeks. Yeah. Yeah, Mandy, if anyone drops unconscious in front of me, I'm calling 911. I agree. Get mad. Too bad. Right? Julie, but if you were not unconscious, you could make the best decisions for yourself. If you were not unconscious, yes. But if you are unconscious, even though people are saying, oh, he doesn't like hospitals, he doesn't want to go, that's not for you to make that decision, I don't think. I don't think that's your decision. That's, you know, that's your loved one's decision to make. Ken Rosenberg, yeah, even a few seconds of unconsciousness is going to have me sending your ass to the hospital. Totally agree. Julie said she had a lot to lose by him going to the feds. That's true. Trial Junkies United, if Squeegee or Pip need a hospital, call me and I will call 911 for you. That way he won't grump at you. Crystal Limited Edition, when I took CPR, the first thing is to ask if you can help. They can refuse, but as soon as they are unconscious, you immediately help. I think that's kind of the kicker. You know, you got to help somebody. I mean, especially if this is your loved one, your soulmate, and they've known each other for 16 years or been married for 16 years, you know. How can you just let him sleep it off? Those were her words, I think. Just let him sleep it off. Curviel says, the doubt for me is the fact he was like that for 12 hours and she did almost nothing. And in the end, it was his friend that took him in, not her. Yeah. All right, I want to pull up something. Let me pull this up. All right. I want to pull up. I thought this was pretty good. Glucose, let's see. All right. Let's pull this up. All right, so these were the alleged events is approximately 12 p.m. Hypoglycemia is a sugar less than 70 milligrams in person without diabetes. Okay, so at, oh gosh, that is almost impossible. Okay, so at 8 hours since the alleged event, his blood glucose was at 21. 8 hours later. So when did he go to the hospital? I think Chris said he came over in the evening. So, okay, so this is when he's in the hospital. So it was like, and I thought it happened before noon. But anyway, 8 hours in, blood glucose is 21. 12 hours in. So they were checking his blood glucose levels. So the hospital was checking them, but they weren't checking if he had insulin overdose, right? Isn't that interesting? Julie, my advice to everyone, if you're going to sneeze while chewing gum, take the gum out. I just had to grab mine from the printer where it landed. I'll get to you. Hold on. Okay, Brat says, I'm comfortable with guilty using preponderance of the evidence so far. For beyond a reasonable doubt, I definitely need to review the exhibits and discuss. Yes. Baca, they have 3 children. What did I just say? No, they have 2 children. Sorry. They have 2 children. They had 2 kids. Hold on a sec. Yeah, they have 2 kids. I think a boy and a girl. I think a boy and a girl. Ken Rosenberg, this isn't a situation where someone gets a concussion, falls asleep, and dies. Dude was straight up on the floor for hours. Yeah. Trial Junkies United, not only do nothing but take photos and send them out. Call your sister to come and help clean him up. You don't think that would make him upset? I agree. Joe Schmo says, I was a volunteer FF EMT, firefighter EMT. We would get people that were obviously injured and needed to go to the hospital. Sometimes they refused. Sometimes a police officer would say, go to the ER or go to jail. Wow. Great question, Nan. Are there lesser charges? Not that we know of. Julie asks, are they with grandparents or other family members? I think they said they're 17. Mr. Victor said they're like 19 and 17, I think. I think he said they're... One's an adult over 18, and I think the other one's 17. Mary, I hope that's how you pronounce your name, Mary. I work in a nursing home, and we had bring sugar up from 30, having seizures and fatigue, sweating. Wow. Lily Wayne... Okay. Have any family members been in the courtroom? We're not sure. There was a young gentleman there yesterday, Dreama Landry, a boy and a girl. There was a young gentleman there yesterday who looked like he could be about 16, 17, or 18. Maybe that was her son. He was sitting behind her. And he's supposed to testify. They did say a minor was going to testify. Hope Case Unwinder, just a strange question. Why are we breaking them all up? I don't quite understand that question. Why are we breaking what all up? The streams? If you're asking about the streams, then because there's a lunch. You're welcome, Baca. Mandy Strong, if Michael regained consciousness and found out what Natalie did and didn't do, he would have sought out a protective order. Stat. Probably. Brat says, for a patient who is not diabetic, I assume a doc would consider insulin overdose fairly late in the differential diagnosis. In this case, it seems they didn't think of it at all. So that's you're talking about the why did they keep checking his blood glucose levels then? Yes, we have morning and afternoon sessions. It's because we have an actual lunch because it's a live trial. So I'm taking that moment to actually pause and eat with Aaron instead of just eating at the side of just off camera. So that's why it's not just one long continuous stream. We're actually breaking it up so that I get a break. Mandy Strong, where were the children when all this went down? Good question. Probably at school, because if it was morning to noon and then all day. But yeah, you think the kids would have come back home. Baka of 3, doubt her son would be sitting on the assistant's bench though. Yeah, he was, well. And then do you think that's her mom and then her daughter behind her? Trial Junkies United. Houston just warmed up to 50 and the snow is gone. I had to take my sweater off. Yay. Good for you. It is still cold here. It is 41. We're going down to 32. It's only going to be 29 over the weekend, you guys. That is cold. That's cold for Florida. 29? Prolonged? Yes, a well-deserved. A good squeegee is a well-deserved break. Squeegee. Lily Wayne, yes, the state has rested. Trial over for today. Yes. Has defense started their case? No. They did a motion for acquittal. State has rested. I pinned it in the comments. You'll see the pinned comment if you look at the top of the comments. So the state has rested. Defense asked for acquittal, was denied, and that's where we stand. So defense starts tomorrow. Brad says low blood sugar they saw, thinking outside the box to someone poisoned him. Yeah, instead of what is failing, they didn't. Yeah. No, that's true. I mean, you're not going to think, oh, somebody poisoned him, but you're going to be like, why is your blood glucose so low? I would think, right? Mandy says, that sounds very reasonable. Why would they think he was being poisoned? Right, they were focused on fixing him. Totally agree. Baka of 3, way behind her in the gallery. The woman with silver hair, white hair, is that her mom? They showed the girl with the woman with the red hair, and then her friend with the dark and the purple hair, and then that woman next to her. Maybe that's her mom. Brat, I agree. Their initial focus would be on a medical cause, not a criminal one. I agree. But why wouldn't you be like, what's going on with this guy? Right? Jenny. 16 here now, but feels like 8. That is cold. It's supposed to warm up to a hot 40 by the weekend. Mandy Strong says, I have heard the family was shocked when they found out what Natalie was doing to everyone. I'm sure. Yeah, Dreama Landry, 7 degrees when you woke up. Tonight it'll be 15. Yeah, that snow's not going anywhere, Dreama. You're going to have that until it warms up. Warmed up to 20. Man, good for you. And Jenny was one. Yeah, my brother said it was minus 26. They broke a record where he is. It's cold. You're welcome, Lily Wayne. No problem. Trial Junkies United. I was wondering if that could have been the daughter and sister. Oh. Yeah, maybe. Huh. Yeah, which one was which? Ken Rosenberg, yeah, the whole when you hear the sound of hooves, you think horses, not zebras thing. Interesting analogy. I've never heard that, but I get it. Mandy Strong, when an unconscious person arrives in the ER, their first thought is rarely someone is trying to off them. True. Yeah, minus 26. They broke a record there. Excuse me. Baka of 3, 21 here, starting the smoker for some beer brats tonight. That sounds good. I do hope you guys join us at 8. It's going to be a really great show with Lisa Mathewson. She's going to talk about her experience with Trevor. She's going to talk about how her experience compares to Amber Heard, Sarah Boone, and Ashley Benefield. You guys, I've read her story. It is really powerful. You guys watch the trial with us. It's really powerful. So we're going to talk about her book as well. So have some beer brats with us, Baka. It's going to be good. Trial Junkies United. I'm sure that Nat the Bat had a crazy story to tell, and since she was a pharmacist, they would believe her. That's true. The redhead looked younger than the one with the 2 colored hairs. I agree. Yeah, I think so. Dream Landry, you got 7 inches of snow. New Orleans got 9. Yeah. Nanar. I'm coming over, Baka. Jenny says your daughter got 9 inches in Florida. The Pensacola Beach, there was literally snow on the beach. Literally snow on the beach in Florida. Never heard that before. Curvio says, I love that she joins us. She's an amazing person. You're talking about Elisa? Yeah, she was in the chat while we were watching that trial. Jenny says she's been there since 2012 and never have had snow there. Yeah, I mean, this is, again, they've been saying once in a generational, like the fires in California, once in a generation, flooding, hurricanes, once in a generation. It's like, this is getting nuts. Oh, Nanar, you have been officially invited over. Mandy Strong, does Elisa, see the way you spell it, it looks like Alyssa. I cannot call her Alyssa tonight. Elisa. Does she believe Amber Heard? I don't know. We're going to find out. That's the whole point of having her on. I'm going to have her talk about Amber, Sarah, and Ashley and how it compares to her situation. Dream Landry, Jenny, that's crazy. My son is stuck in Florida. He's a truck driver. Yeah. Ken Rosenberg, I didn't realize she found her way over here when you were watching the trial. That's wild. She did. And then she came on as a recap with her and Florida PI Sam, because Sam was on the defense team for Trevor, basically, and she had to interview him, and she's like, he's just you know what she thought about him. Oh, really? They closed Camp Lejeune today. They closed a military base? Really? That is a military base, right? Why on earth did they close a military base? Krista Limited Edition. I can't believe anyone else believes Amber Heard. Yeah, well, what we did is Aaron pulled some clips from Elisa, her testimony, her cross to be specific. Amber Heard's describing what happened to her, which I don't know if you remember that. Sarah Boone, and then Ashley Benefield. And so we're going to play them all, and we're going to talk about it, and we're going to take your guys, comments, and it's going to be, I think it's going to be really interesting, because I'm dying to hear what she has to say. Curville says, Ken, yeah, she was so great to have on to tell us her story and how things are going since, etc. Hope you can make it tonight. Yeah, we'll talk about her story. We'll talk about her book. It's really powerful. It's a great book, great story. Definitely come back. It's only like 3 hours from now, so definitely check it out. So Mandy says yes, and they were all told no driving. So they shut down a military base. That's just ridiculous. Dream of Landry, you have a curfew, dusk till dawn. What is wrong with people? Did you get some snow and you had a curfew? I guess. All right, guys, I'm going to end it. Thank you to Aaron, as always. Thank you to our mods, OnlyFan, who hopefully is getting some sleep. Therapist who's, I think we all know, is dealing with something right now. Much love to you. Julie, thank you, Widespread Panic. Let's see, I have Therapist in my mind. Hellcat, thank you. Brat, thank you so much for your fantastic modding, and your insight is fantastic. Really appreciate that. I think was Florida PI Sam. Oh, Rachel B., you were with us for a long time too, so thank you so much for that. Is there a redirect for tonight's show? Let me see. Let me see if there's a redirect, so that way you guys don't have to. I mean, it's at 8 o'clock, but I'll put a redirect on. Okay, I'll add a redirect so it comes up. So there you guys go. Redirect is coming in. Yeah, 8 o'clock tonight. Elisa Mathewson is going to be on. We're going to talk about her book. We're going to talk about her story. We're going to talk about her experience. And then we're going to review clips of her on the stand, Sarah Boone on the stand, Amber Heard on the stand, and Ashley Benefield on the stand. And I want to get her reaction. And then we'll take it from there. So please join us another couple hours, another 3 hours. So yeah, please join us if you can. Thank you guys, and with that, I will see you tomorrow, hopefully later tonight. But if not, then tomorrow we'll pick up, what are we up to? Day 6. We'll pick up day 6 of West Virginia versus Natalie Cochran. So thank you all, and I will see you guys hopefully later tonight, and if not, then tomorrow. Okay, bye.
Yeah.